the sugar bill is a matter that was put under a lot of pressure to ensure that we finish with this sugar bill, Honorable Speaker, and considering the huge business, especially government-sponsored business that is lined up in this last session, it is unlikely that if we go beyond today without processing this sugar bill, it may fall off the order paper the way the House Business Committee has prioritized business, and this being a private member's sponsored bill, is only fair that we accord the Honorable Angwe, the committee chair, the Honorable Mutunga, and more so the members from the sugar belt in Western Kenya and parts of the coast time to be able to propose necessary amendments and pass this sugar bill so that it may be assented into law or processed further through Senate. Honorable Speaker, allow me to request the Honorable Junet Mohammed, the Minority Whip, to second that procedural motion.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion that has been moved by the majority leader. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge our members who are from the sugarcane growing areas to remain in the House today. For the sake of your people, this bill is affecting the lives of the people who are sugarcane growers. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge members, especially the sugarcane growers are majorly on this side of the aisle. Please, there are others also there. Even Honorable Kagogo is a sugarcane grower, Mr. Speaker, for the first time. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge members, please, for heaven's sake, remain in the House. Last week, before recess, we went on recess. The bill was almost being completed, but it didn't happen because of lack of quorum. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying on the floor of the House that please remain seated until we conclude that business. And before that business, there are also two important bills that we need to take them very serious. The bills on healthcare, they are coming ahead of the committee of the whole House. Those bills also are very important. They are affecting the lives of the people, and we need to look at them critically so that whether they make sense or not, because Kenyans are known for changing laws but no benefits, but let's scrutinize them as a House and we support if they make sense. Members of sugarcane growers, I'm repeating for the last time, remain in the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
The question, which is that pursuant to Standing Order 33A, this House orders that should the time appointed for adjournment of the House be reached before conclusion of business under Order number 12 in today's supplemental order paper, the sitting shall stand extended until conclusion of the said business. I put the question. Honorable members, I now put the question, which is that pursuant to Standing Order 33A, this House orders that should the time appointed for adjournment of the House be reached before conclusion of business under Order number 12 in today's supplemental order paper, the sitting shall stand extended until conclusion of the said business. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 8, the Tribunals Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to give effect to Articles 1(3)(c), 24, 47(3), 159(1), and 169 of the Constitution regarding tribunals, to establish the office of the Registrar of Tribunals, to provide for the functions of Registrar of Tribunals, to rationalize and regulate the administration and functions of tribunals, and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Preservation of Public Security Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 48 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Preservation of Public Security Act, Cap 57, to abolish the death penalty. Order number 10, the Digital Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2023, second reading.
Majority Leader, before you move the bill, allow me to acknowledge the following schools in both the speakers and public galleries. Kipsingei Secondary School from Sotik constituency, Bomet. Brigan Academy from Mavoko constituency, Machakos. Kenya Kids Learning Center from Starehe constituency, Nairobi City County. Glory Learning Center from Embakasi East constituency, Nairobi City. Kiio Secondary School from Mwingi East constituency, Kitui County. On behalf of the House and myself, I welcome the institutions, the students and their teachers to the House of Parliament. Thank you. Yes, Nguna, what is it? Give him the mic. Because Mwingi was mentioned?
No. It's point of correction.
Yes, give him the mic.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I just rise to raise this question. Not question, I mean to correct you. There is no constituency called Mwingi West. Mwingi East is Mwingi West,
Mwingi
where
West.
I come from. And I take this opportunity to welcome everybody in this house, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I think the mistake was made by my team here. It's so corrected, and the Hansard will reflect as Mwingi West. Majority Leader, you may now move the bill.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, before I move, let me also take this opportunity to welcome all those students who have come to join us, including those from Embakasi East. I noticed the Member of Parliament, the Honorable Babu Owino, was banging the table instead of foot thumping, and I just pointed it out to him that he should foot thump, not bang tables. Honorable Speaker, now beg to move that the Digital Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2023, be now read for the second time. Honorable Speaker, allow me to begin by thanking the Departmental Committee on Health for tabling the very comprehensive report that they have done in a timely manner, having undertaken thorough public participation during the recess. And let me particularly thank them because they did this work at a time when the House was on a working recess and many other members were back in their constituencies, but they sacrificed time to be able to engage with members of the public and all Kenyans, including institutions that are in the health space, to be able to listen to their views and adopt those views in the compilation of their report. And under the able leadership of the Chair, Honorable Pukose, we thank you on behalf of the House. Honorable Speaker, our nation has made significant strides towards digital transformation in various sectors, leveraging on technology to enhance the implementation and delivery of services and products within the digital space, Honorable Speaker. Key among these innovations and transformation, Honorable Speaker, in the digital space, in the financial sector, Honorable Speaker, the most recent, besides M-Pesa, has been the Hustler Fund, where people now are able to access money by simply dialing on their phones without having to fill up papers, without having to know anybody. And Honorable Speaker, the health sector has not been left behind and indeed has made very steady progress in digital technology, transformation through implementation of digital solutions to manage, share, and use health data. Honorable Speaker, members will appreciate products like M-TIBA. I have seen a number of pharmacies around the country that are using solutions, digital solutions, to be able to provide and deliver pharmaceutical products to their clients, both consumers or patients and hospitals, and also other dispensers of pharmaceutical products. However, Honorable Speaker, the adoption of technology has been very uncoordinated, characterized by a fragmented implementation with health sector actors not adhering to basic digital health standards, guidelines, recommendations, and digital development principles, Honorable Speaker. These technologies have affected how health data is therefore managed, resulting in multiple disparate systems that have limited ability to exchange data. And the primary object of this bill, Honorable Speaker, or rather this bill seeks to now provide a framework for the provision of digital health services, to establish a digital health agency, to establish a comprehensive integrated digital health information system, and also to provide for data governance and protection of personal health information in the service delivery through digital health interventions, on e-waste disposal, and also on health tourism. And Honorable Speaker, members, you'll see from clause 5 all the way, part 2 actually, almost the entire of part 2 of the bill speaks to the establishment of this health agency, which, Honorable Speaker, from clause 6, members, you see the agency will be established as a body corporate and will develop and operationalize and maintain the comprehensive integrated health information system to manage the core digital systems and the infrastructure required for its seamless health information exchange. It will also develop and implement the infrastructure for health data exchange of health information in a secured manner. It will undertake resource mobilization for implementation of health digitization in the country. This agency, Honorable Speaker, will also certify digital health solutions based on best practices and standards to ensure that all the solutions, digital solutions that are being used in the country, Honorable Speaker, are indeed solutions that are certified. It will also, Honorable Speaker, amongst other objectives and functions that are stipulated in the entire of that clause, advise the Cabinet Secretary on matters related to digital health. Honorable Speaker, the bill further sets the minimum standards applicable for the establishment and maintenance of digital health information systems. It provides for the mechanism for interconnectivity between each county information system and the national system. Because, Honorable Speaker, under this comprehensive integrated digital health information system, all our health facilities, right from the primary healthcare facilities at level dispensaries, those at level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, to the national referral hospitals like Kenyatta, MTRH, KURTH in Kiambu County, Honorable Speaker, will be integrated in one seamless system, and exchange of medical information will become easy. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, if you have a CT scan done on you in Kisumu, at the Kisumu Referral Hospital, a doctor in Kenyatta National Hospital or in Nairobi Hospital can be able to access that scan and be able to advise the person treating you down at the Kisumu Referral Hospital, or indeed a level 3 hospital in Marsabit County, Honorable Speaker. You will not necessarily require to have all manner of consultants scattered around the country, and therefore health personnel will be able to benefit from more experienced personnel at the national level or in our national referral hospitals through exchange of such data, Honorable Speaker, in a system that is seamless and that is secure, and where patients' data, Honorable Speaker, is safeguarded, and you are certain that your data as a patient is not subject to abuse or to be misused by characters out there. Honorable Speaker, this bill also seeks to facilitate the realization of the right to protection of personal information as guaranteed under Article 31 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and under the Data Protection Act number 24, 2019. Honorable Speaker, members are aware that the enactment of the Data Protection Act of 2019 presented very new challenges for the health sector in Kenya, as the sector handles very sensitive patient data whose protection requires more safeguards. And therefore, this bill fills that gap to ensure that patient data is indeed safeguarded. Because, Honorable Speaker and members of Parliament, Honorable Speaker, in the past have been victims where their patient data has been leaked to people who should not be holding private or otherwise very confidential patient data. Therefore, with this new bill, Honorable Speaker, nobody be you a member of parliament or any Kenyan who is attended at a health sector facility anywhere within the country should be apprehensive or afraid that their patient data will be accessed by people who have no right to access that data. Honorable Speaker, the bill also enhances the health data governance framework in the country by requiring all healthcare providers and health facilities to adopt mechanisms to ensure the safety and security of patient information, Honorable Speaker, as I have articulated before, that Kenyans now will have the ability to have more control over their personal data, particularly in health facilities, because they will now be required to give consent before the collection, processing, and sharing of their personal health-related information. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, with the adoption of this bill, Honorable Speaker, nobody has to fear that any data that is collected from you will be shared without your consent. You must give consent for your data to be collected, for that data to be shared with anybody, even if it is another referral hospital or another health professional, it must be shared with your consent. And I must thank the committee because they are indeed very emphatic, and I have seen from the report as they engage with stakeholders to ensure that data protection for patients is very well safeguarded. And therefore, this bill, Honorable Speaker, besides what is provided for in the Data Commissioner's Data Protection Act, Honorable Speaker, this bill provides further safeguards on more railguards to ring-fence data that is coming from the health sector. Honorable Speaker, the bill further regulates the processing of health data, and in particular the health data that contains sensitive personal data through technological mediums such as telemedicine. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, the bill requires healthcare providers and technology platforms that offer telemedicine to put in place several safeguards, including anonymization and de-identification of sensitive personal data. Honorable Speaker, what this de-anonymization and de-identification means is that you'll be able to transfer data or share data in an anonymous manner or without clearly identifying whose data is. Therefore, Honorable Junaid, because I see him holding his chin, must not worry that anybody will share his health information if he's treated at a health facility in Migori. And that health facility requires referral services from his consultant doctors, be it in London or in Nairobi Hospital. And I know the Honorable Junaid is seen by a doctor who sees me also at the Kenyatta National Hospital Doctors Plaza. Therefore, I'm only using him as an example when I mention London, although I know he likes traveling to London, Honorable Speaker. But I was saying he needs not to be apprehensive that your data, whether you attended at the Suna sub-county dispensary, if that dispensary needs to share your health data with a consultant in Kenyatta National Hospital, that data must be de-identified and done in anonymous manner such that the person will be treating a patient, and because they can't see that patient, they will not need to know necessarily that patient is one Junet Mohammed or one Kimani Shongwa being treated in Ulisegeti Sub-County Hospital in Kikuyu, in Nachu Ward. Honorable Speaker, the health agency, Honorable Speaker, as I said, shall, among other things, develop and operationalize and maintain this comprehensive integrated management information system that is established under part 4 of the bill, Honorable Speaker. And this integrated management information system will ensure that we have a means through which we can manage the core digital systems and infrastructure required for the seamless sharing of health information and exchange of health information, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I had promised the chair of the Health Committee that I will not take a long time in moving, but Honorable Speaker, it is just for us to appreciate that we are in a digital economy, we are in a digital world, and digitization is here with us. Honorable Speaker, you remember, members, you remember His Excellency the President committing during the campaigns to leverage on technology to be able to offer more efficient service delivery to the people of Kenya. And not just in the financial services sector, as we did under the Hustler Fund, not only through the e-citizen platform where Kenyans now can be able to access over 5,000 services, government services online, but also now in our healthcare space, Honorable Speaker, that Kenyans will be able to access affordable, easy to access medical care from any part of the country, Honorable Speaker. And it will not matter anymore, Honorable Speaker, whether you are in the far corners of Kathiani constituency or in far-flung counties in the north of Kenya, probably in Elwak, where maybe the senior-most medical personnel you have there could be a clinical officer. And in some cases, Honorable Speaker, there are areas where dispensaries are actually managed, not by clinical officers, by senior nursing officers. Honorable Speaker, Kenyans now will not need to worry that you are in a far-flung county, you do not have the resources to be able to access expensive health care in Nairobi Hospital, in Kenyatta National Hospital with seasoned consultants. But at your local dispensary, through sharing of information in a seamless and secure digital system, your health consultant or your health personnel at the local level can share that with experienced health personnel in referral hospitals, and you get the correct diagnosis of diseases, you get the correct treatment, and in a timely basis, Honorable Speaker, so that Kenyans do not have to live with the agony and anguish that many Kenyans have had to bear with, especially with diseases, Honorable Speaker, like cancer, which, if arrested early, would not progress to become so agonizing to the patient and families across the country. Honorable Speaker, I do want to move that with those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, that I beg to move, urge members to support this bill because these health bills are in the best interest, as the Honorable Junet was alluding to when he seconded me on the procedural motion, that these health bills are indeed critical for our nation and for our people. It is up to us to be able to scrutinize this bill and the others and vote in their favor, not for the government, but to vote for the people who we know are suffering because of a dysfunctional healthcare system that we can now fix, and we have that golden opportunity, Honorable Speaker. As I move and request the Chair of the Health Committee, the one and only Dr. Pokose, to second.
Dr. Bukose.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to second. Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank your office and the office of the clerk for the immense support they've given to the Committee of Health in the two bills. Honorable Speaker, in particular, I want to mention the Director of Legal, Mr. Mwendwa, providing us with 8 legal drafters who are able to assist us in making sure that this bill has seen the light of the day. I want to thank the Committee of Health for having spent their time, running at times into very late hours, in scrutinizing this bill and also in the public participation. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the Minister of Health under the able leadership of CS Nakumicha for having facilitated the Principal Secretary, Mr. Arik Mutai, and the team to be able to appear before this committee, also the NHIF and all other partners who came before our committee. Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank the Office of the President for sending a team led by Dr. Mwai in making immense contributions to this bill. Honorable Speaker, the Kenyan government has prioritized digital health programs under the third medium-term plan 2018 to 2022. In addition, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto under the able leadership of His Excellency President Ruto has identified digitization as a pillar for the health sector to enable achieve universal health coverage. By adopting these digital health technologies, the country can ensure that everyone has access to the care they need, regardless of their location or financial situation. Honorable Speaker, this bill establishes the Digital Health Agency, which establishes a comprehensive, integrated digital health information system in fulfillment of Section 105 of the Health Act, number 21 of 2017, which obligates the Cabinet Secretary to establish an integrated, comprehensive health information system relating to the national government health functions and to every county in respect of their county functions. This agency will be domiciled within the Ministry of Health. The bill therefore seeks to consolidate and harmonize information obtained from both levels of government. It also provides for intergovernment, that is from county to county, integrated system where they are able to communicate and be able to link up in matters health. The bill further sets the minimum standards applicable for the establishment and maintenance of digital health information systems. It further provides the mechanism for interconnectivity between each county and the information system and the national system. This will assist both levels of government in coming up with the consumer-focused and prevention-oriented care at all levels of healthcare services, which will ultimately reduce the disease burden within the country. Honorable Speaker, we had immense contributions from the Council of Governors in this bill, and therefore the county was ably represented. The bill facilitates the realization of the right to protection of personal information as guaranteed under Article 31 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and under the Data Protection Act number 24 of 2019. The enactment of the Data Protection Act number 24 of 2019 presented the new challenges for the health sector in Kenya as the sector handles sensitive patient data whose protection requires more safeguards. The bill therefore fills this gap, which is crucial in light of the fact that privacy concerns and data breaches are now more prevalent. Honorable Speaker, this bill enhances the health data governance framework in the country by requiring healthcare providers and health facilities to adopt mechanisms to ensure the safety and security of patient information. It also gives Kenyans the ability to have more control over their personal data, particularly in health facilities, as they must provide consent before the collection, processing, and sharing of their personal health-related information. Honorable Speaker, this bill further regulates the processing of health data, in particular health data that contains sensitive personal data, through the technological mediums such as the telemedicine. In this regard, the bill requires healthcare providers and technology platforms that offer telemedicine to put in place several safeguards, including anonymization and de-identification of sensitive personal data. In this way, the bill regulates the largely unregulated telemedicine and e-health platforms, among others, which will guarantee the safety of Kenyans using such platforms. Honorable Speaker, yesterday the President launched distribution of community health promoters kits, and in those kits they have gadgets that they are able to collect sensitive information. This sensitive information will be sent to the Digital Health Agency, and within the Digital Health Agency, any information pertaining the disease burden within various areas can be able to be interpreted and be able to be stored to access in healthcare delivery within our country. We can also be able to monitor who is working and who is not working. We'll have close to 100,000 healthcare providers within our country, in all corners of this country. And in every constituency, they'll be represented. Each healthcare provider will be in charge of 100 households. Within those 100 households, they'll be able to take information pertaining what diseases people have, what can be referred, what can be advised in terms of management, what other preventive measures that can be put in place. All this information, Honorable Speaker, will be captured within that gadget, which is the M-Mobile, the M-Health, that is mobile health. And this can be sent to the Digital Health Agency. And within the Digital Health Agency, that information can be stored. Honorable Speaker, we also have the e-waste in terms of how do we dispose of that information and at what time we'll be able to dispose of that. So tomorrow, once the House Business Committee puts the bill for the Committee of the Whole House, then we'll be able to discuss further and be able to look at what amendments the committee has made, what amendments we've gotten from the public participation, what amendments members can be able to propose to enhance and make this bill a better document. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Order, Honorable Njeri. Take your seat. Honorable Njeri, take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that the Digital Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2023, be now read a second time. Julius Olesunguli. The problem of keying in and leaving the chamber. Victor Koech, I hope you have Sungul is here. I'll give him the opportunity to contribute. He was the first on the list. Sungul, you can be given the mic anywhere, but go to where you are most comfortable with. Give all. Julius, before you take the floor, allow me to acknowledge in the speakers and public galleries, Greenview Secondary School, Kwanza Constituency, United Republic of Tanzania. Ole Sankale Junior Secondary School, Narok North Constituency, Narok. Kwa niaba yenu na kwa niaba yangu tunawakaribisha wanafunzi wale kutoka Tanzania na Narok kwa jumba hili la bunge na tunawatakia makazi mema. Sunguli.
Out. Sorry, I think the mic is. I wish also, before I make my remarks, to say karibu to the students whom you have just acknowledged, especially from the great county of Narok, particularly one of the oldest schools in Narok, Ole Sankale. I want them to feel quite welcome in Parliament. Mr. Speaker, this bill, the Digital Health Bill, is one of the two bills that we are going to be discussing, which have been thoroughly deliberated on by the Committee of Health. And I want to really thank my colleagues in the Committee of Health, because the Committee of Health has very prominent members of Parliament from particularly the medical profession, led by our chairman, Dr. Robert Pokose, and ably supported by other doctors, not to mention all, but in particular Dr. Nyikal and our friend Professor Jaldesa. So this committee is very well populated by the medical personnel who actually are the experts in this field. And I have been privileged as a lawyer to have to midwife these particular bills, the ones that we are going to be discussing today. Now, this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, acknowledges the fact that we have all moved, and that now we need to acknowledge that digitization is here with us. I particularly want to single out one element of digitization that is going to be very helpful to the people of Kenya, and this is telemedicine. It is now possible that there is a doctor, say at Aga Khan, who will look at and review a patient in Kilgoris and prescribe treatment for that patient. Or a patient in Washington, D.C., sorry, a doctor in Washington, D.C., looking at a patient, say, in Nairobi. But this also poses the challenge of what happens to the information that the doctor or the medics come in possession of. And this bill regulates this area, because this area has been highly unregulated in the past. This bill, Mr. Speaker, has been well thought out, and we are confident that upon passing this bill, the medical profession will be well guided on what to do with people's information. Mr. Speaker, one of the important things in the medical profession is privacy of information. And the bill has a number of ways of dealing with the privacy of information. One of the ways is to make sure that the names of the patient are not revealed to anybody, especially the person requiring that type of information. And that is what we call anonymization. There are many ways that we have devised in this bill that will make sure that the information that is gathered and that is stored in a manner that is quite secure. Mr. Speaker, we commend this bill to our members, to our fellow members in this House. It's a good bill. We have also, indeed, we will propose a number of amendments to it that they are not going to be that substantial. As it is, it's a good bill, and I do support.
Thank you, Sunguli. Victor Koech, member for Chepalungu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. While I rise, I want to appreciate the Departmental Committee on Health, led by Dr. Pukose, for a well thought about this particular bill that will go eventually to solve the issues that our patients have been facing. Having a particular case whereby our patients travel for long distances, and now upon passing of this particular bill, our patients are able to be reviewed by doctors staying in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, while we support this bill, it is also a common known fact that our local hospitals have inadequate equipment. Although this bill is going to offer solutions in equal measure, we would like to make recommendations that the local hospitals like Sigor Hospital, a sub-county hospital that is in Chepalungu, have to have the requisite equipment so that when patients can travel for less distance, a review of their health can be done in Nairobi efficiently. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this particular bill. Thank you.
Nelson Wamboka. He's not here. Ken Chonga. Have you keyed in for this bill? Those who do not wish to speak to this bill, you can, because the screen is full. Ken Chonga, are you for this bill?
No, I'm not for this bill, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Yield the floor to Mother Wangari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to join in congratulating the Health Committee for this bill, which will go a long way in terms of getting efficiency in how we handle our health records. And Mr. Speaker, the one issue that I've liked that this bill has addressed is, of course, the management system and also the cooperation, as has been stipulated in the Constitution in Article 187, 189, of the cooperation between the two levels of government. Because I think what has been ailing the health sector, Mr. Speaker, is that there is a disconnect between the two levels, and I hope that what we saw yesterday with the President launching these kits together with the county governments, there will be smoother operations even in the counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue I would speak to is the issue of the interlinkage with other institutions and officers. This, Mr. Speaker, I have in mind the issue of the government chemist. Mr. Speaker, a week ago, in my constituency, in a village called Kasambara, one young girl, 12 years old, Jasmine Joki, was waylaid from school, raped, and killed. And Mr. Speaker, the DNA samples that have been collected by the government and by the security officers has to be taken to Kisumu to assess whether the suspect is actually culpable, Mr. Speaker. So I would hope that this bill would be able to actually address the release of issues of DNA in terms of sexual offenses, and I hope that this can be done especially under Article 36 in terms of disclosure of data. It provides on the areas where this data should be provided, and they have said legal requirement, Mr. Speaker, but I wish that it can be more expressed, specifically on issues that touch on defilement and rape, that this data, the DNA and the DNA samples and information, Mr. Speaker, can be easily shared even to the enforcers of the law, even to the court system, so that we can get pedophiles jailed, we can get the criminals jailed, and this information, Mr. Speaker, should not be able to take such a long time. It should be more efficient. You don't have to travel to a different city, you don't have to travel to a different town to be able to get this information. It can be easily be transmitted, Mr. Speaker. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, that is very important is, of course, the issue of privacy, because matters, medical records are very sensitive, including not only us, every member, Mr. Speaker. That is why you visit the doctor alone. And this bill has tried to address that and has looped in the issue and the Office of the Data Commissioner, so that we have credibility that the confidentiality, the privacy and security of any data that any person or any person shares with a medical practitioner, it's protected, Mr. Speaker. And you know, Mr. Speaker, we are just coming from a time when we were dealing with the WorldCoin that was recently a major issue in this country, Mr. Speaker, and the safety has not been guaranteed as we await the report of this special committee that was formed, Mr. Speaker. I hope this confidentiality will be guaranteed, the data commissioner to be on top of it, Mr. Speaker. That way we'll be able to protect the information that is shared in any form or any manner in any of the institutions of our country, Mr. Speaker. But I think it is a good bill. We would be proposing some amendments at the committee stage, but I think at this point it is very important, even in terms of e-waste materials, and the important fact that they have looped in the county governments, because the practitioners are not just in Nairobi, are not just in the referral hospitals, they are not just in the national institutions, Mr. Speaker. The practitioners are in the counties, Mr. Speaker. But with those few remarks, I beg to support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
James Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important bill for the health services in this country. Mr. Speaker, in health there is massive information. If you start at the individual level when a patient is being looked after, you see those huge files. It is full of information on the individual. That information has to be handled. Mr. Speaker, we even use this information to manage people, and now with e-health, we can actually manage people at long distances, and we need that information that information must be transmitted from one place to another, not only within the country, but must also be transmitted internationally, because people do move across the world seeking health care. So, Mr. Speaker, even actual management of patients, treating patients, with telemedicine, it is digital now possible to actually manage some cases, even cases of surgery. A lot of information is therefore flowing through the system. And this information is personal information, and it is used for managing patients, and it's used for managing hospitals. Mr. Speaker, beyond that, if you look at health systems, the health systems has massive information, the data that we have concerning the equipment, concerning drugs that you have, concerning supplies. So, Mr. Speaker, this is massive information, and this is what we use to actually monitor how the system is being managed, how our health system is working. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the link between the ministry and the information that comes there in national management, in managing national affairs, in planning, if you look at the health indices that are important, infant mortality, maternal mortality, the under 5 mortality, the access to immunization, access to drugs, these are things that are extremely important in planning. The levels of malnutrition, this is massive information that actually has to be linked to our national data, the Bureau of Statistics, and the Ministry of Planning. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a lot of information that we have. And right now, most of this information is either being managed manually, or if it's being managed digitally, we have little information, little systems all over the place that actually do not talk to each other, and therefore cannot give the information we require. With devolution, Mr. Speaker, this is even worse, because we actually have a huge health information system that now has to talk at national level and also at county level. Now, we are doing it manually, and as I said, if we are doing it digitally, the systems we have are actually not coordinated, not integrated. And therefore, it is important, Mr. Speaker, that now we move and digitize all this. And if this is done, obviously it will improve efficiency. But it also introduces a huge risk, Mr. Speaker. The risk that this information that is flowing digitally can be easily accessed. The issue of hacking this information. So there is not only the danger of hacking individual information, hospital information, national information, county information. You can hack every information when you go digitally. Therefore, it is time that actually we look at that, and that is exactly what this bill is doing, Mr. Speaker. So it's therefore creating an integrated health information system, integrated comprehensive health information system, a system that can actually talk to all institutions across the country, at county level, at national level, at hospital level. So that is actually created in this information. Once you have that information, Mr. Speaker, you need to manage data. If data is not managed, particularly at national level, Mr. Speaker, it is a danger, it is a risk. It's actually a security risk. And therefore, this bill, creates a system of this data management. Using it, if we have it, that is actually created here. But, Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, if you do not think about it, then what about particularly at personal level, what about the security of the data? What about individual information that people do not want to actually be everywhere? So this bill actually looks like that, where we have said that information can be treated in such a way that you cannot identify the individuals that the information, the data is relating to. So that actually is in the bill. The confidentiality is assured, and the security is assured, and we are creating systems that can employ people who are well versed with management of data and data security. Mr. Speaker, I'll actually compare health data nationally to even actually military security. Because even the military, what is it used, Mr. Speaker? To protect us. Protect what? Our lives. So the information about our lives is equally important. And actually, it can be a security problem. So we support this, I support this bill because it actually gives, creates systems that will deal with that. Mr. Speaker, now, if you imagine all the computers, all the equipment in x-rays, all the equipment in labs, if they are digital, when they are not in use, many of them still have the information inside. As Mr. Speaker, I know, you will know, we had a great American called Edgar Hoover who used to go behind offices and take what was in the dustbins and get information with that. What is our dustbins now is the place we put equipment, digital equipment that actually has been used. So that e-waste, we must find a way of managing it because it will give away the information we have. Mr. Speaker, I had earlier said our people move from this country to other countries. How do we transfer the information? How do we make sure it is safe? How do we ensure confidentiality? Mr. Speaker, this bill provides for that. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. We need it. Whatever health system we'll use, we need it. Even how we use our finances in the health sector is part of the information we have here. So I support, Mr. Speaker.
John Mutunga.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this bill. Honourable Speaker, I have looked through the bill, and I would like to highlight a few issues, Honourable Speaker, as per my findings. Honourable Speaker, the first thing I noticed is that the bill uses the word retrieval and archival, and these two terms are not defined. I would like to cite clause 21, subclause 3, which specifically mentions those two particular ones, and therefore they need to be defined in this particular bill. Honourable Speaker, when you look at the bill itself, the need for research is not amplified in the bill. The bill talks about governance of the data, it talks about the health, data security, it talks about the e-service, the e-health service delivery, the e-waste management, the health tourism, even tourism, but does not recognize the need for research. This is data we are collecting across the country. This data can be used through data mining. We can know what is happening in the country. And I want to give several examples, Honourable Speaker. The first thing we can do, Honourable Speaker, is to identify epidemics. Using the occurrences or the outbreaks of diseases across the country, we can know at what point in time can we declare an epidemic. We do not have to take health personnel there. Based on the data that we are getting, we can declare epidemic and we can also declare a pandemic. Honourable Speaker, the health facilities across the country will be captured in this data. And the status of these health facilities will also be captured. So it is my belief that through implementation of this bill, we can review these reports frequently and take appropriate actions. Instead of having no medicine in certain parts of the country, we can redistribute medicine across the country based on the information that we are getting from these reports. Honourable Speaker, a capture of this data and appropriate interpretation will help us to guide the forward planning. Honourable Speaker, my understanding of this particular bill is that it's going to bring in integration of information. And integration, I understand that it is possible for somebody to visit a clinic and then diagnosis is done. Or let's say you take up an X-ray, or let's say you take up something like MRI. After this diagnosis is done, or after this report is taken, it is possible for this report to be relayed through electronic system to an interpretation center or another center where it can be interpreted. It is also possible for the administration of the drugs to be given at another point. then it is possible for somebody to get the drugs without necessarily having to travel to Nairobi or without necessarily having to travel to referral hospitals. In that case, Honorable Speaker, that possibility is created by this bill. And if that possibility is really a reality, then some issues come in which you have to deal with. And I believe the committee needs to look at some of these issues. One of them is the ethical issues. When somebody believes that he was not given the correct medicine because he was not there during the diagnosis, when somebody believes that the cure is not occurring in record time because this diagnosis was done offsite or out of away, and, or when somebody, for instance, gets complications, and therefore there is the issue of attribution. The fact that this diagnosis was done far away, those are some of the issues that this bill needs to cure. Honorable Speaker, in view of integration, there is also perceived the ease of identification and capture of the spread of illnesses. Honorable Speaker, it is also possible for us to determine early, to detect early, based on what has been reported in different parts of the country. That ease of identification will help us to move on in a better way than we are right now. Honorable Speaker, I looked at the board. The members of the board, I thank the members of the committee because they have restricted themselves to 6, yet this particular bill is fairly open. But Honorable Speaker, I want to point at one particular member of the board. I'm looking at clause 8, subclause 1, paragraph G. If you look at that particular provision, one person representing the private sector appointed by the cabinet secretary. And then I wonder, who is this person? Which private sector? Anybody from out there, then you appoint and put them in the board? We need to describe who is this particular private sector. And probably we can narrow this one down to either health, private sector health, or private sector ICT. If it is private sector health, will private sector ICT feel denied? We need to look at that very carefully so that we can be sure. Probably we may need to expand or substitute some of the board members so that we are able to represent the private sector appropriately. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the other issues that are in this bill, and I want to mention one specific one again, clause 15, subclause 1, and paragraph D. In terms of the resources or funds for this particular agency, it is identifying any other funds designated for or accruing to the agency by virtue of the operations of law. And I find this quite open. Honorable Speaker, I think we need some form of censorship of the money that comes into this particular agency. We need to have an authority censoring this particular, or some provision censoring this money. And I have a proposal that probably we can say the CSL, as approved by the CSL. Without that particular censorship, then we have a problem. Honorable Speaker, save for the few issues that I've mentioned, I support. Thank you very much.
Bissau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Digital management of our health system is very important. Improved customer service, because of the quick retrieval of data, is very crucial. It also helps the doctor to attend even to more patients in a very short span of time. And at the same time also, there is the visibility of complete customer history. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, this also helps to remove the physical storage. Space becomes a problem. Space continues to reduce. So by going digitally, it also helps to sort of address those physical storage of this data. And again, Mr. Speaker, this particular bill also addresses the issue of the environment. Looking backward and going forward, there's a lot of paper which comes from trees that has to sort of take care of these physical files. So to me, this bill is also very important addressing that. And at the same time, when it comes to research, despite the fact that team members might be in different places, example, doctors when they are researching, but because of that, digital accessibility, they are able, despite their different geographical locations, to be able to do research, of course, in a cost and efficient manner. And also most important, even as I support this bill, Mr. Speaker, I would expect that the issue of data security is addressed, data protection is also addressed, because in a single storage facility, you will have data that covers, the entire country. But it's a very good bill, and I would really like to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Wanjiku Muhia. Wanjiku Muhia, are you keyed in for this? No. Joseph McClap is not there. Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance to speak on this bill, which basically brings together and tries to create a database for the health sector. I think we also have this in education, because with NEMI system working, we are able to know the information every student and even movement of a student from one school to another is carried with information about him. And I think the world getting digital, we are taking this to the health sector. So this is a very important bill. And I see it going to bring out a number of things which are good for the society. Number one, it will bring to fore affordability in the health sector, so that there is the bit of sharing of information from one hospital to another, from one doctor to another. And above all, in this level of affordability, Honorable Speaker, to remove the double, triple, multiple tests that are being done on the patients from one hospital to another. A patient attending a hospital in a lower level will undergo the same test in the next level and will go continuously on the same test even at a higher level. And still at every level they pay. So this I see as a big advantage with this bill, because now a test at a particular level can be shared throughout the entire system of health. And then there's an advantage of a test at a higher level being shared across down to the CHV or the CHPs, the health promoters, so that even though they are working at the lowest level, at the ground level, handling the 100 people, we were told, they are able to enjoy the tests that otherwise were proven by the health practitioner at the highest level. And I find this very, very important, also given that the sharing of this information can be done across the counties and to the national level, and this will actually basically reduce the cost of health, which is a real burden. In the rural areas where we live, there's something, Honorable Speaker, called CT scan, which is now not only required, but is also proving to be a health menace, that every patient will be asked to go through a CT scan. And this CT scanning is done at every level. So for every CT scan, the patient pays about 7,000 to 10,000. And they are paid all through the way. I think this bill is trying to address that. Honorable Speaker, the sharing of high-level technical medical machines is also achieved. So we realize economies of scale in terms of the medical equipment that we have. That once we have a techno equipment at the Kenyatta Hospital, it can also serve people who are at different levels in different counties, and therefore the cost is actually shared. I also see further advantage being brought by this bill, that how often do we dream that we should get to the high-end hospitals like the Nairobi Hospital, get to Kenyatta Hospital and other hospitals that are at the high end. But with this shared information, it means that we can even share the doctors and their advice and their consultants from the very high end to the lower end level, to the ground level, and this will actually improve and actually bring down the cost of health in this country. However, Honorable Speaker, as we do all this in this bill, we must make sure that the health centers and health places, the hospitals are equipped. Yesterday, I was proud when I saw the CHPs, whom soon I would want them to be called health workers, because they are going to be a crucial part, integral part of the health system in this country. But that's a matter for another day. We need to uphold them to a working level and not just volunteers or promoters. And they got several equipments which will keep data, including the e-waste, the M-Health, and the M-Mobile. But you may realize, Honorable Speaker, that these same gadgets are not in the hospitals and the health facilities that we have around the country. So this must go concurrently with improving not only the medical equipment in our hospitals, but also the human resource in our hospitals, so that the hospitals can become the centers where these ground-level health workers, called health promoters, will actually operate from and become their center of operation. Honorable Speaker, data protection has been spoken about as an important thing for this particular bill in order to protect the data protection of the people who will have gone through the system, and how to dispose of the wastes in terms of data that will have gone into the system. But I also see further an advantage, and somebody spoke on this, I think it must have been one of the honorable members, that the research component that is being brought to bear by this particular bill is very good, because information will be there. And therefore, we are able to discern the most prevalent diseases in this country, and also discern new diseases that are entering into the system and in the country or in the health sector, and take interventions which will actually handle them. And this is very good. So it will actually promote research. And when we shall be doing the third reading, the Honorable Chair, Bokose, who's just up here with me, we will need to actually see how we can also use this data so collected in order to give projections and also enhance research on the most prevalent diseases in this country and undertake the mitigations that are required to deal with them moving forward, Honorable Speaker. So prevalently and largely, this is a good bill that takes our health sector to another level. It is actually a blockbuster in terms of demystifying the health issues and creating space within the hospitals where we have so many files which are keeping equipment. We had this in several sectors, and now it's being removed so that we don't have many files. How many times are people in the villages told, go and buy a book? And I know most of you come from those areas where before you even start being treated, you are being asked to buy a book, and each time you approach a hospital, again you must buy books, simply because we are not digitized. So this is a blockbuster in terms of making this sector more efficient in order to assist the Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, I think with those very few remarks, I want to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Article 43 of our Constitution defines access to universal healthcare services as the right to the highest attainable standards of health. Mr. Speaker, the World Health Organization also defines universal health coverage as access to promotive, preventive, curative, rehabilitative, and palliative health services, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, there are certain things that in this bill, first of all, we used to have NHIF as a department of Ministry of Health. That gave birth to the NHIF Act. The NHIF Act, because of the changing realities, Mr. Speaker, has had certain lacunas. It is these lacunas that this bill attempts to address, Mr. Speaker, through digitization of the health records, Mr. Speaker, through promotion of health tourism, Mr. Speaker, through provision for telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, through provision of health information system, and Mr. Speaker, more importantly, like where I come from, we come from very remote villages, Mr. Speaker. The issue of remote patients monitoring, Mr. Speaker, is something that is critical, because I remember now the constituency that I represent, and this is the second constituency, Mr. Speaker, that I'm representing. We got our first medical doctors, Mr. Speaker, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. You can imagine the challenges those people have been going through. But, Mr. Speaker, with this bill, some of these things can be reduced. Mr. Speaker, this will also reduce the issue of administrative costs. The issue of data protection and privacy, Mr. Speaker, will also be very important. The issue of interoperability, Mr. Speaker. You can have one hospital, Mr. Speaker, in the farthest part of the world, having an exchange program with another hospital, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of health innovation is also critical. Mr. Speaker, there are certain things that we need to look at. There are countries that have succeeded in the provision of their social health care mechanism, countries like Germany, UK. In Africa, our neighbor Rwanda here, Mr. Speaker, a small country, has had a very successful social health care, Mr. Speaker, mechanism. Countries like India, Indonesia, Ghana in West Africa, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these things are critical. But there are certain things that we must also sound that are alarming. Mr. Speaker, the issue of the definition of household. Where I come from, or near you come from, our household means completely different from a household in Europe. And therefore, we'll be amending to provide for a household as an African household, not a Western household, Mr. Speaker. Like if you talk of Aden Kainan's household, I can assure you, you'll be talking about tens of people. A household in Western Europe means a man, wife, and a kid. If you divide the household of the Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, you can imagine, it's a chain. I think these are things that we'll be looking at. We will bring an amendment actually to bring this into life. Mr. Speaker, equally, we're also doing an over-legislation. There are certain things that require the fact that we want to modernize and inject a bit of modernism, efficiency, Mr. Speaker, in our healthcare system doesn't mean that we over-legislate everything that even requires just some administrative pronouncement. Mr. Speaker, I've looked at this. We want to cure everything. We are defining qualification for the chair. We are defining qualification for the person who's going to be the top quality assurance officer, Mr. Speaker. These things require administrative efficiencies, not legislation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we also need to protect the officers who are there right now. It's like we are assuming we are starting from zero. There are officers who have diligently served NHIF, Mr. Speaker, and therefore their right to a decent job must also be protected, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this particular bill, I'm aware that this is a country of regions. This is a country of tribes. This is a country of, call it, because that is the foundation of the nation state of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, we must be careful because right now the information outside there is part of the provision of this bill is meant to provide employment opportunities and exit those who are there, Mr. Speaker. If that is the agenda, then I can assure you, you will not succeed. If the agenda is to modernize, then we'll be there to support this particular bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally.
Mr. Speaker, with all respect that I have for Honorable Kainan, I think he has been mixed up with the bills because the bill is debating is a bill in the next order after this. And I think for the convenience and the relevance rule
I have noticed so, but since he says he's winding up, let him wind up.
No, sorry. I think you have limited your horizon of appreciation of this particular bill, my dear sister. You need to look at the bill holistically.
Just wind up.
But I think let me say this, and I read. Let me read this, and there's no confusion at all. The bit I'm trying to say is, if you look at both the letter and the spirit of both bills, Mr. Speaker, then there's a bit of reference to the existing staff. So I'm sounding alarm. Just this, even as you operationalize this, the qualifications that you have given, I can assure you by the time we pass this, the next thing that you will see is opportunities and vacancies for directors and this. Let's accept this, that's the reality. And that's what I'm alluding to. And I really understand I can bet that, Mr. Speaker, after we enact this, that is the next thing that you'll be seeing. I'm saying it is good, but we shall also have regard for those who are there because this country has some of the best human resource capital. That's the bit I'm trying to say. I'm not in any way insinuating any improper motive actually on the good chairman, my friend Dr. Bokose. And finally, Mr. Speaker, there's one thing that we must accept as a country. Mr. Speaker, we have legislated. We have done everything. What we require is goodwill. I don't know how we should have, I'm told you have your own Hippocratic oath, Mr. Speaker, in the medical field. There's something that we need to eject so that once we have professionals in this particular field, the challenges NHIF has had, Mr. Speaker, will not be there. And therefore, as it is, subject to those provisions that will bring an amendment like the definition of a household so that it contextualizes the African framework. It's a good bill, we support it, and I hope it's going to inject fresh blood and energy in our health sector. I support.
Mary Massey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Honorable Speaker. I arise to support the bill on digitization of health systems. And Honorable Speaker, I want to go straight to the aspect of integration. The fact that now hospitals there will be a linkage between hospitals in the counties and national government, that means that there will be reduced costs, because as it is right now, you find that if a patient, for example, has been attended to in a level 3 or a level 4, and there is a referral to a level 5, the same investigation, the same tests that were undertaken end up being repeated again before the patient can be attended to. So by having this digitization in place, it will help reduce costs, not only for the patient, but also for the service provider. Honorable Speaker, this will also ensure that there is better management of the patient, because then there is access to the history of the health conditions, and therefore this patient is able to get better treatment and the timely treatment, and therefore there will be a better experience for the patients. Honorable Speaker, I'm also very happy with this bill because it is addressing the issue of security. Issues of personal health treatment are private matters. So this bill seeks to increase security, enhance security of health data. And therefore, by doing that, it will also build confidence in the patient. And therefore, many patients, many Kenyans will be encouraged to go to hospital, seek hospital treatment as opposed to self-treatment, where people are just walking into a chemist and buying medication for an imagined treatment, because sometimes also arising out of fear of security of their data in these hospitals where they go to seek for treatment. Honorable Speaker, also general digitization of healthcare system will eliminate so many inefficiencies in the health sector. For instance, it will also provide an audit trail. We've been having problems with the KEMSA, with the medications, where medicines have been delivered. They cannot be traced as to who they were prescribed to. I believe with this digitization, we shall be able to know what quantity of drugs went, for example, to Busia County. And that can be traced to which patients were prescribed this medication. It will be very easy to get that kind of information. And also this will help us fight corruption in the health sector. With the digitization, it will be very easy to trace most of these inefficiencies within the sector. I still notice that a lot of data is still collected manually. So issues of reporting, data that is shared with national government, shared internationally, there will be enhanced reporting.
Yes, Honorable Master, hold your horses. Yes, Honorable Chief Congo, what's your point of order?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, I believe in order myself. So I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 95. Mr. Speaker, as you know, you must have had my very good friend, Honorable K9. He was in fact mixing this bill and the next one. So that we allow people to contribute, even in the next bill. And you know, Mr. Speaker, there is this sugar bill, which is very important, Mr. Speaker. And we are all sitting here to ensure that we pass this sugar bill. So, Mr. Speaker, in fact, everybody who has stood has supported this bill, Mr. Speaker. Would I be in order to request you, Mr. Speaker, to call upon the mover to reply?
Let Honorable Master finish.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I am also sitting here waiting to contribute to prosecute the sugar bill. But I was on my last point. I was saying that the digitization of this health sector, the systems in the health sector, will also
Honorable members, is it the mood of the House that we call the mover to reply? Yes. Let me give Robert Mbui as the last speaker, then Ichungwa recollect your issues and reply thereafter. Robert Mbui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also give my opinion on this bill. You know, the issue of digitization is all over now, and I think almost all sectors of the economy are getting digitized. So it's a good idea for us to digitize our health sector. And of course, as we say, all dreams are valid. But it's important, Mr. Speaker, as we go through these, to understand maybe the positives and some of the challenges that we may actually end up finding in this kind of setup. Mr. Speaker, the advantages are obvious and they've been talked about by very many of the members. First and foremost, I believe that treatment will become cheaper because there is sharing of resources. When one doctor can be able, or one technician can be able to serve many hospitals at the same time. And then, of course, that means even the equipment can be shared, so that makes it easier and cheaper. Mr. Speaker, also it will be faster because you can get instant feedback. Mr. Speaker, also the history of every medical patient becomes easily accessible, and therefore that means that in case there's any settlement or need to settle a medical dispute, then all the information is obviously readily available. And Mr. Speaker, I would also imagine that in the
What's happened to...
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, that is what I was going to add. The issue of the safety of security, how technology actually works. If it were possible in the future, and I would propose that they find a way maybe even to connect this system with the one for the registrar of persons, so that those that lose their lives in hospitals can also be immediately recorded so that we can be able to issue their certificates. Mr. Speaker, of course, the agency has its work cut out for them, because for them to ensure that digital data of patients is protected, it is a very, very tall order. Mr. Speaker, we have to look at it this way, that a lot of the systems that we have already in this country, they are sometimes prone to failure. I mean, look at almost all our state corporations, NHIF, NSSF, pay as you earn. The minute many people log in to try and do their end of month, returns, suddenly those systems are not working. So you can imagine the number of patients. If many patients are logging into the system, it has to be very, very well done. So, Mr. Speaker, we have to be very careful about the kind of technology and the kind of system that we put up, because that system may also be a problem. Mr. Speaker, careful that we do not have any possibility of people hacking into the health system, because if that were to happen, Mr. Speaker, they could corrupt data and, of course, put our people's lives in jeopardy. So it's really, really something that we need to look at. Mr. Speaker, also, you know, for us to have this health system work and for the digital system to work, we also have to have ICT, we also have to have Wi-Fi. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about our dispensaries being able to send data to hospitals in the city, to hospitals that are level 4, level 5. Mr. Speaker, where is this digital connection? We were promised digital connection in our markets, in our villages. Mr. Speaker, it is still not there. So as we are coming up and we are proposing to pass this, Mr. Speaker, this is likely going to end up being hot air. We talk about it, we pass it, and we are unable to implement it because we do not have the infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I am not opposing. I am just posing a challenge.
Let's hear a point of order from the Deputy Speaker.
It's a point of information to Honorable Mbui. Honorable Mbui is being a pessimist, and if he believes that technology does not work, you should stop carrying your phone and not use a telephone. In fact, you're speaking on a microphone here in this house, courtesy of technology. You're speaking in this house, recorded by Hansard, courtesy of technology. Are you telling us that we must just stay frozen in time and remain in the Stone Age times just because you fear technology and that you're a pessimist, yet is a beneficiary of technology? Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In fact, the voting that went on in this country that you are elected on was courtesy of technology. So you should give up your seat first if you don't believe in technology. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I would have liked to ignore that because I talked about the promises for Wi-Fi in our markets, in our villages, which is still not there. And Mr. Speaker, that is a fact. So I'm just saying that we are likely to pass this bill, and then the dispensaries in Kaviani cannot be able to send this information. Mr. Speaker, can I have some information, please, from my from a whip of the minority.
You can't. Order. He has not sought to inform anybody, and you have no capacity to solicit information while you are on the chair, on the floor, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, have you heard him now?
Yes. I have not heard anything. Go on, Robert Mbui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So
And you
basically,
shall
I'm not opposing, I'm not opposing the bill. I'm just posing the challenges that we are likely to face in the implementation. Otherwise, I said all dreams are valid. We need to work towards the possibility of making this work. But finally, Mr. Speaker, again, even after the technology.
Do you want to be informed by UNED?
Yes, I want to be informed by my whip.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for your indulgence. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to inform my deputy minority whip that he is not opposing the bill, but what I wanted to inform him is that technology can fail you at the hour of need, when you need it most. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, technology that fails you at the hour of need, what will you do about it? That's what he's trying to point out, Madam Deputy Speaker. He's not opposed to digitalization at all. He's just telling you that technology can fail. So be prepared that, you know, the other day we were told 25,000 markets will be digitalized. Some worked, some did not work. When people boarded a matatu, it did not work. When they came down, it was working. So that's what he's trying to inform you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So Mr. Speaker, as I finish.
Yes, Chief Konga, what is the point of order?
I don't want his information.
He's not informing, he's on a point of order.
No, no. Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to standing order number 91 on factual statements. Mr. Speaker, the minority whip purported to want to inform my very good friend, the Honorable Mbui, and then ended up informing the Deputy Speaker, who was on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, on a serious point of order, my very good friend, the Honorable Mbui, he knows, and which he should have brought that information to this House, that when the permanent principal secretary for ICT appeared before a committee, in fact, he even gave one of his markets to be connected, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know which is this failure of technology when he knows I liberalized telecommunication in 1999. He walks around with a mobile which has never failed, Mr. Speaker. He gets me when he wants me, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know which is this technology where he gets, which is going to fail. The statement, Mr. Speaker, in itself is inaccurate.
Okay, wind up, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would have loved to ignore my chair, but Mr. Speaker, as I said before, I am not opposing. I am just posing the challenges we are likely to face, because even as he says, there is a market in my constituency that's being connected, the dispensaries are not, and here we are dealing with issues of dispensaries. So, Mr. Speaker, I finally want to just say that we also have to be very careful that as we pass very good legislation like this one, we also have to have the right people managing the technology also that will be in our hospitals. I know the people that serve in some of the dispensaries in my constituency, and I really wonder, when we have this technology, who is going to manage them? So it also means that we are likely to end up increasing the personnel that are in those dispensaries, and I'm wondering who's going to be carrying that burden. Is it the counties? Is it the national government? Yet even some of our dispensaries are not functional because they don't have enough staff. So with those remarks and concerns, I do support the dream. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I'll now, pursuant to this point of order raised by the Honourable Chief Konga, I'll now put the question that the mover now be called upon to reply. As many of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And Honourable Speaker, as I reply, let me thank all the members, including the Honourable Robert Mbui, who has closed by supporting with reservations. And it is also okay to be a pessimist. And Honourable Speaker, if you come from where Honourable Mbui comes from, he knows about 3 weeks ago, because I've had him divert to issues to do with the connectivity of markets. He knows the CS Elio Doalo was in the county of Makueni just 3 weeks ago to launch the connectivity of markets. And a number of bloggers who are well known to Robert were all over online bashing the CS for commissioning connectivity to a market. But this is the beauty of technology, Honorable Speaker, and I'm sure and I'm happy that the Honorable Mbui also has supported this bill with his pessimism and said it is a dream. And indeed, every good idea begins with a dream. And the dream to connect the digital services of healthcare services in this country will be a reality when we approve this bill, Honorable Speaker. And let me thank all the members who have contributed to this bill, including the Dr. Nyikal, who has immense knowledge of the health sector in this country, having served as a director of medical services.
Majority Leader, do you want to be informed by Kainan?
I do not desire to be informed in reply. He could inform me in the next bill, Honorable Speaker. I was saying the Honorable Dr. Nyikal, having served as a director of medical services, he knows the challenges that are there in the medical sector in this country, right from areas that have very low coverage of doctors and access to consultants, to even technological challenges in terms of the equipment that is accessible to patients across the country. And therefore, this bill, Honorable Speaker, will in a very significant manner change the whole architecture of our healthcare system and make sure that universal health coverage becomes a reality under the Kenya Kwanza administration's plan, or the manifesto, Christian, the plan. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply and urge all of us to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Honorable members, I now put the question, which is that the Digital Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2023, be now read a second time. As members of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment of the Digital Health Agency, to provide a framework for provision of digital health services, to establish a comprehensive integrated digital health information system, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11, the Social Health Insurance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2023, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Social Health Insurance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2023 be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, again, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to begin by thanking the Committee of Health under the able leadership of the Chair, the Honorable Pukose, and his Vice Chair, the member for Chukaigamba Ngombe, Honorable Patrick, because again, as I mentioned, as I moved the Digital Services Bill, Digital Health Bill, Honorable Speaker, this committee sat through the recess period to listen to very many stakeholders, and very many of them, Honorable Speaker, were interested in this social health insurance bill, because this bill, Honorable Speaker, in a big way changes the management of the National Health Insurance Fund as we have known it. Honorable Speaker, members will appreciate the challenges that have bedeviled NHIF, right from the days of clinics to the recent times of St. Peter's and some other facilities in, in Meru. And every now and then, government has had to crack the whip to deal either with the board or the management at NHIF because of issues that touch on corruption, Honorable Speaker. This bill speaks to matters touching on corruption in the governance and management structure of NHIF, Honorable Speaker. Because we have had a mongrel of an organization in NHIF that has grown over the years. Honorable Speaker, a number of amendments have been done to the NHIF Act, Honorable Speaker, and very many reforms have been effected in the health insurance coverage of Kenyans. and to enhance the capacity of NHIF, Honorable Speaker. And this part of these reforms included the upward revision of premiums that we did in this House in 2015, the expansion of the NHIF benefit package that previously included only inpatient care, and they now added outpatient care, and several other specialized services. Honorable Speaker, members will also appreciate the care for certain illnesses like the treatment of dialysis, or rather provision of dialysis services under NHIF, the provision of chemo and radiotherapy services also that have subsequently become payable under NHIF. Honorable Speaker, they also have had various reforms in the human resource structure and the function organization structure of NHIF. ICT, just as we've just spoken to with the Digital Health Bill, there have been various ICT-related reforms relating to automation of several key core functions, including claims management at the NHIF, member registration, and premium contribution. Today, Kenyans can be able to contribute for their premiums from dialing on their phones. And of course, several amendments that we've had to do in this House to the NHIF Act. Honorable Speaker, the Social Health Insurance Bill of 2023 seeks to accelerate the progress that we have made in these reforms and actualize universal health coverage, as we did promise under the Kenya Kwanza administration in our campaigns last year. Honorable Speaker, where those reform initiatives have yielded significant progress, several gaps still remain, especially from a recent analysis, which shows that, among others, the National Health Insurance Fund operates under a very passive regime and is therefore a passive buyer or a passive purchaser of health services rather than a strategic purchaser of health services. NHIF, Honorable Speaker, is also plagued by inefficiency and governance challenges, as has been witnessed in the recent past, Honorable Speaker. Just the other day, a number of high-ranking officers at NHIF were forced to relinquish their positions, including the former CEO, because of those governance challenges and efficiencies in the system. Honorable Speaker, NHIF has also turned to be potentially financially unsustainable under its current structure. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is against this backdrop that the government proposed to have a paradigm shift, a complete paradigm shift in the provision of social health insurance as proposed in this bill, and one that would seek to, among others, repeal the current NHIF Fund Act of 1998. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, the principal object of this bill is to put a legislative framework that will regulate the provision of social health insurance, promote the implementation of the universal health coverage, as I mentioned, as was espoused in our Vision 2030 and reinforced by the Kenya Kwanza's plan of 2022. It will also ensure that all Kenyans have access to affordable and comprehensive quality health services. The bill, therefore, Honorable Speaker, upon enactment, will repeal the National Health Insurance Act number 9 of 1998. This bill, Honorable Speaker, will regulate the provision of social health insurance, which will reduce the current high cost of out-of-pocket expenses by many Kenyans on health care. In doing this, Honorable Speaker, we'll be fulfilling the provisions of Article 43 of our Constitution on social rights, which among them includes the right to access affordable health care, and that is what we seek to provide under UHC. Honorable Speaker, the paradigm shift that I spoke to seeks to address primary health care with the goal of enhancing preventative and promotive care to reduce the demand for healthcare commodities. Honorable Speaker, members will know that the current state is one that deals more with curative, or rather has a curative approach, rather than a preventative and a promotive approach. And therefore, we are shifting from what is more of curative to preventative and promotive approach that will come under the primary health care. We also be in a situation, Honorable Speaker, currently where we have a non-comprehensive or vertical services, and we are moving to a comprehensive and integrated services under this new bill, and that will be realized through the digital health bill that we just passed, Honorable Speaker. We have a fragmented primary health care structure. Honorable Speaker, we endeavor to shift to a primary health care which has networks that strengthen service delivery right from level 1, level 2, all the way to level 3. Honorable Speaker, lastly, we have under NHIF a non-sustainable or a financial support system that is not sustainable as we speak. Therefore, we are moving to a very sustainable financing model where Kenyans, those who are paying 500 shillings, will now enjoy lower rates at the rate of 300 shillings. Honorable Speaker, we are moving to a sustainable system where Kenyans who before could not access health care because they could not afford, today under the primary health care fund, so long as they are members of NHIF or they have registered with the fund, they will be able to access primary health care at their local dispensaries at level 1, 2, 3 without having to pay, Honorable Speaker, and the Social Health Insurance Fund will cater for their health care. Over and above that, Honorable Speaker, Kenyans have suffered immensely. And I spoke, as I moved the digital health bill, Honorable Speaker, to instances where families have agonized as to whether to sell their land, dispose of other valuable assets to be able to sort out medical bills. And especially so, Honorable Speaker, if you've had a family member who suffers from a chronic illness, Honorable Speaker, be it cancer or diabetes. And Honorable Speaker, the cost is out of reach for millions of Kenyans. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, the chair of the Health Committee will tell you, probably less than 7% of the Kenyan population is able to afford quality health services that is provided by our health services sector. And this bill seeks to ensure that no Kenyan is left behind in the provision of accessible, affordable, and quality health care, Honorable Speaker. Whether you suffer from chronic illnesses, whether you are among those who are categorized as indigents, or even the elderly in our community, people who have no access to any productive sources of income, Honorable Speaker, under this new architecture of NHIF, under the Social Health Insurance Fund, Honorable Speaker, those people will be able to access health care, again, that will be catered for by the Social Health Insurance Fund, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I say, the bill promotes the attainment of universal health coverage, and that is why I'm speaking to right from primary health care to the chronic illnesses that will be catered under for by this bill. And by realizing universal health coverage in the country, it seeks to ensure that all Kenyans have access to affordable and comprehensive quality health services. This is through the provision of health coverage, as I mentioned, to older persons, indigents, and other vulnerable persons in our society, including persons in lawful custody. And Honorable Speaker, that tells you that even those who are in our prisons today, Honorable Speaker, for many years, being in prison in this country is almost like a death sentence. Because if you fall sick in our prison services, in our prisons, Honorable Speaker, you are a candidate for going to heaven or anywhere else. Because access to health care is almost impossible under our current regime. But we are making sure with this bill, Honorable Speaker, that even those of us in society who are undergoing correctional services, in our correctional services, have access to affordable and meaningful quality health care, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this bill, if you look at Part 3 and Part 4 and Part 5 of the bill, Part 3, Honorable Speaker, is a bill that seeks to create the primary health care fund, which will receive monies appropriated by us here in the National Assembly, grants, gifts, and donations. It will also have monies allocated for that purpose, for the purposes that it is established from fees and levies that they administer, and monies accruing or received by the fund from any other source, Honorable Speaker. And this primary health care fund, Honorable Speaker, is what I was speaking to, that will take care of Kenyans at the primary health care facilities, be it level 1, be it level 2, be it level 3, or your local health care dispensary, Honorable Speaker. And you know, Honorable Speaker, again, the chair of the committee will tell you, as they engage with stakeholders and in the healthcare sector, they got to learn that many Kenyans who are suffering from chronic illnesses like cancer, or what are categorized as critical illnesses, are Kenyans who never had to progress to that critical stage of getting into the critical illnesses or chronic illnesses if they had proper health care at the primary health care sector level, Honorable Speaker. And it is that this bill seeks to cure. That a Kenyan today should be able to walk into a level 1, level 2, level 3 facility or even a local dispensary, get the correct diagnosis. And Honorable Speaker, let me just go back. Beyond primary health care in the dispensaries and level 1, 2, 3 hospitals, yesterday, Honorable Speaker, those who cared to watch and follow what the President was doing at Uhuru Park, he was not speaking, as I've seen some bloggers say, that he was commissioning development for a hostile country. The President was commissioning universal health coverage services, and by commissioning the volunteers, the CHVs, community health volunteers, who have been working with no pay, and now they are being incorporated into the mainstream healthcare sector of our country, being paid by government through our national government and our county governments, and hundreds of thousands of community health promoters and volunteers, Honorable Speaker, will now work under stipend. And with the bags that you saw them being commissioned with at Uhuru Park yesterday. And I was saying it is not what that particular blogger was talking about, that the President is commissioning development to a hostile country. There is nothing hostile with a country that is dealing with a dysfunctional healthcare system. And it begins with those community health promoters. With their bags, they should be able to walk into your home tomorrow, take your temperature. If you have COVID, they will be able to diagnose that and be able to tell you now you need to go to a hospital. If it was probably just a small headache, they will be able to administer paracetamols because they are trained for that. They will be able to measure your blood pressure. They will be able to measure your blood sugar. And that way, they will be able to offer you proper advice, medical advice, on what kind of service you need to seek and from what facility, Honorable Speaker. And that brings us now to the primary health care fund that will now come in and take care of you at the primary health facilities level. And that, if you are a member of this fund, Honorable Speaker, you need not worry about the bills. They will be sorted out. Honorable Speaker, Part 4 of the bill speaks to the creation. Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from the member for Konoin, Brighton Yegon, and the member for Bomet Central, who are behaving like we're in Salt Technical. And you could hear the way they are laughing, Honorable Speaker, like they're in a classroom in Salt Technical. I hear they are discussing the transformation of Fona Bototo. But you must protect the Honorable Toto from the Honorable Brighton and the Honorable Kipyegon. And especially from that laughter by Honorable Brighton Yegon. Honorable Speaker, I wanted them to listen. Because if you go to Met County, Longisa Hospital, there are many patients there who ought not to have been referred to Longisa, taking up bed space, if they had accessible and affordable primary health care. And that is why I needed the members from Bomet County to listen. Honorable Speaker was saying in part 4, the Social Health Insurance Fund is being established under part 4 of this bill. And this fund, Honorable Speaker, is what will basically take up most of the work that now was under what is NHIF as we know it, Honorable Speaker. If you go to part 5 of the bill, Honorable Speaker, it creates what I've already spoken to, the Emergency, Chronic, and Critical Illnesses Fund. Honorable Speaker, I have said, and I've mentioned there before, Honorable Speaker, that this fund, Honorable Speaker, is what has made many families across our country destitute. Every weekend, Honorable Speaker. And indeed, nowadays, previously it was every weekend when we went home and you had to deal with cards, fundraiser cards dropped in your constituency office. Nowadays, all these members of parliament will tell you they are not in less than 100 or 200 WhatsApp groups created for fundraising for health bills in their constituencies. And for some of us like myself and Honorable Junet, we get invitations even from people who don't hail from our constituencies. And these are the challenges that we must deal with as leaders. And there is no better way. Honorable Speaker, you know, Junet is very disruptive. Now he's saying he's people from Bomet. And the last person who added me to a WhatsApp group was actually a member of Suna East constituency. Fundraising for a medical bill. Honorable Speaker, I was saying these challenges are challenges that we are living with as leaders. And it behoves us, Honorable Speaker, that we confront these challenges now and not tomorrow, Honorable Speaker. We cannot deal with it by continuously attending fundraisers, Honorable Speaker. We must create funds whether you have a chronic or critical illness in this country, you'll be able to walk into a hospital, get admitted, get proper administration of the right medication, and go home knowing your family will not be turned destitute because of hospital bills, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this critical illnesses fund will come to sort many families across this country. Honorable Speaker, let nobody lie to you. Even in our own WhatsApp groups as members of parliament, we have fundraised for our family members because even as a member of parliament, healthcare is unaffordable. Honorable Speaker, speak to former members of parliament, they will tell you, amongst the hugest challenge they have as former members, having left the Parliamentary Service Commission's scheme, medical scheme, is being able to afford health care and health insurance coverage. Honorable Speaker, with this critical illnesses fund, and I'm not saying former members of parliament suffer from critical illnesses or chronic illnesses, but these are things we live with, Honorable Speaker, and we must be the ones to offer solutions. And I want to invite all of us, Honorable Speaker, to rise to the occasion and create this fund that will sort out universal health coverage. It has been tried before, Honorable Speaker. The government or the administration of our former president, Mwai Kibaki, the late Mwai Kibaki, tried it. It did not work. The last regime, the Jubilee regime, tried it, and after the 4 pilot counties, they were courageous to declare that it has failed. We cannot and we must not afford to fail this time around, Honorable Speaker. And that is why a lot of work has gone to thinking through the system. And I know, Honorable Speaker, there are fears whenever there are changes. There is also people who are skeptics and will not believe that things can change and change for the better, but I want to assure Kenyans that this new social insurance fund will sort out the issue of universal health coverage, sort out the question of affordable health care, and ensure no families in Kenya, upon enactment of this bill, Honorable Speaker, and the other bills that are being considered in the Senate, and I'm sure which will be transmitted here as we shall transmit these 2 bills to the Senate, Honorable Speaker, that upon their enactment, at least those who have been delegated to be among the destitutes of our country by health bills, upon enactment, no other Kenyan family should be declared destitute on account of a family member having accessed an affordable health care that the family could not afford, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I know there has been a lot of lobbying, and it is there, Honorable Speaker, because as I said, change, whenever there is change in a system, people are fearful. People are fearful, I know, including the staffers of NHIF, that with the enactment of this bill, they will lose their jobs. I want to assure our hardworking staffers at NHIF, so long as you have not engaged in corruption, so long as you are a diligent worker, you shall not lose your job. No Kenyan will lose a job on account of a bill being enacted. And the fact that you are being asked to reapply is so that the new organization gets the best out of NHIF, Honorable Speaker, and the others can be redeployed elsewhere, Honorable Speaker. Two, Honorable Speaker, you know, from healthcare providers, NHIF as it is today has been a cash cow. And I mentioned from the days of clinics and others in the Mwai Kibaki administration, to those who have attempted to loot NHIF under this administration. And I must thank the Minister for Health, C.S. Nakumicha, for the quick action she took to ensure that governance within NHIF is proper and nobody takes advantage of funds that are being contributed by Kenyans to provide affordable health care, Honorable Speaker. And the cartels, Honorable Speaker, that have been managing by proxy the governance structures of NHIF today are running scared. And I know, Honorable Speaker, they are mobilizing. They are lobbying, including those who are health insurance, private health, medical health insurance providers and insurance companies in this country, Honorable Speaker. They have taken advantage of Kenyans on a matter as dire as the health care of Kenyans. It is up to us here today to put to a stop that taking advantage of Kenyans when they are most vulnerable, when they are sick, by people who are minting billions in the businesses they run. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, because I know all those cartels are listening to me, I want to announce to them, as has been said before, that mambo ni mangapi? To quote His Excellency the President, that the cartels who have benefited from NHIF, mambo ni matatu. And this bill, Honorable Speaker, will sort out these cartels. And I know many of them have proposed amendments that I have seen them shuttling them between one member to the other. I want to assure them we shall stand guard in the committee of the whole House, not to protect this bill, but to protect the Kenyan people who have suffered over the years. It is time we became leaders and put the interest of our people ahead of our own interests. And I want to plead, Honorable Speaker, even as we propose amendments in the committee of the whole, when that time comes, Honorable Speaker, that we shall do such amendments that will help us realize universal health coverage within the shortest time possible and actualize the dreams that the Kenyan people have had since independence, that they could walk to a hospital, access affordable and quality health care, walk back home without having to worry about hospital bills. It is a dream that Kenyans have dreamt and it is a vision that we can realize together. Not just within our lifetime, Honorable Speaker, as my deputy here is whispering, but within the life of this session of Parliament and within this debate and upon enactment of this bill. With those very many remarks, Honorable Speaker, allow me once again to request to move and to request the chair of the Health Committee, Dr. Pukose, to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Dr. Bukose, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, me to thank members of my committee, beginning with my deputy, the Honorable Patrick Ndwiga Munene, member for Chuka Ikambengombe, the Honorable Martin Pepela, the Honorable Cynthia Muge, Honorable Mary Maingi, Honorable Pauline Lenguris, Honorable Anthony Kibagendi, Honorable Bishop Titus Kamala, Honorable Dr. Joshua Odongo Ron, Honorable Julius Legakeny Sunguli, Honorable Ruben Kimwok Kiborek, Honorable Martin Owino, Ward Chief, Honorable Duncan Maina, Honorable Professor Kuyo Jaldesa, and Honorable James Nyikal, Dr. James Nyikal. Honorable Speaker, these members really gave a lot of their time to make sure that not just these two bills, we've actually processed 4 bills during these holidays. We have a bill on Kenya Drugs Authority, which I tabled the report. We have a bill on assisted reproductive health by Honorable Millie Adhiambo, which I'll be tabling the report tomorrow. And then these other 2 bills, which have been processed during this recess by these members. Among them, Honorable Speaker, even the Honorable, I want to single out Honorable Cynthia Muge. She was on maternity leave. Her baby is only 4 months, and she was able to create time to come to Mombasa and process those bills. Honorable Speaker, that is a very commendable commitment. It shows how committed the members of this committee are in taking the House business. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to thank the various partners, NHIF, Ministry of Health, and in particular also my legal team, Faith Sialai, and my lead clerk, Arale Hassan, for having led the parliamentary secretariat to do the great job that we've done today. Honorable Speaker, this social health insurance bill is creating a paradigm shift in as far as national social health insurance is concerned. And in particular, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank His Excellency for President Dr. William Ruto for guiding this process and making sure that we are able to deliver this bill in the shortest time possible. I want to thank all the members who came for the public participation to make their contributions to this bill. I'll not be able to mention them, but for this bill, we had 25 memorandums to the committee, with some of the members appearing before this committee and making their contributions. This bill, Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, NHIF has been a thorn in the flesh. There's been a lot of corruption, and as even we speak, this committee is carrying out investigations into the fraud by close to almost 30 or 40 hospitals into the NHIF scheme. This is something that must come to an end. Honorable Speaker, this bill creates 3 funds. It creates the primary health care fund, it creates critical emergency and chronic illness fund, it creates a social health insurance fund. Primary health care fund will be at level 1, level 2, and level 3. And the healthcare promoters, what we call the PCNs, will be every PCN will be in charge of 100 households. And as you saw yesterday, His Excellency President William Ruto launched distribution of the gadgets for 100,000 community healthcare providers at Hurbach yesterday. This is a commendable contribution to the healthcare of this nation. And in it, the national government pledged a 50-50 share in terms of enumeration, or in terms of giving the healthcare promoters who have been working as volunteers for many years without anybody giving them a single cent. Yesterday, the national government agreed that they'll be able to pay 50% and the county government pays 50% to these healthcare promoters. So that despite the moving out of their, moving from one house to another, when they get back to their houses, at least they have something to go back to. They have something which they can give their families. Healthcare promoters, Honorable Speaker, are critical contributors to healthcare in this nation. As my friend and member of my committee, Ward Chief, Honorable Martin Owino, who is a primary healthcare specialist, from his experience, which has immensely contributed to the committee's many decisions in supporting this primary healthcare. The primary healthcare is the first call of health service. These are the people who will be able to look at the health at the grassroots level, to make sure that even illnesses that could have taken time to be identified, they'll be able to refer you to the right place. They refer you to the dispensary, they can refer you to the health center, then from there, you can be able to get your service. The emergency, chronic illnesses, and fund, and critical illnesses fund. Today morning, Honorable Speaker, members from my community, coming from Endebess, who had gone to the dialogue committee headed by Majority Leader and the Minority Leader in Bomas to present the issue of Mount Elgon County number 50, which they want. Unfortunately, when they were going back, they were involved in an accident. But I want to thank the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital for attending to them urgently, making sure that they've been treated, and some of them have gone home, and they have 2 who are admitted there. When we have this fund in place, Honorable Speaker, such emergency which has occurred can always be taken from this fund. We have people who are on renal dialysis. After they exhausting their fund in the NHIF, more often they've been paying for enhancement. Enhancement now is not going to be something that you need to pay for, because you have critical care, you have chronic illnesses, you have emergency fund. So what we've done in this law is that we provided that for any other, we know that we have some of our elderly brothers, senior civil servants, former members of parliament. You now have access to the chronic illness fund, but still we provided for you to negotiate with NHIF on how you can be able to enter enhancement. Because in the past, enhancement has been also prone to abuse, where somebody pays for enhancement, but the services you access is more than what you pay for. So we must be able also to cut for that abuse. I know there are worries about the transition in terms of the NHIF staff. What we've agreed is that within one period of transiting, 1 year of transition, the board will be able to carry out assessment. We'll be, because we wouldn't want to create a vacuum also. So because we don't want to create a vacuum, we will be able to give the board an opportunity to be able to carry out assessment of those working within NHIF to see who is competent, who has the necessary skills to carry out several functions, and those ones can be retained. If there is mismatch, as reported in the consultant's report, which was commissioned by the World Bank. Take, for example, you are a geologist. What are you doing in NHIF as a geologist? You should be taken to a geology department within the public service to offer your geology services. You can't be in NHIF. So what we want is that we want the board to sit down, look at those who are competent to offer services. We have people in NHIF who have been involved in corruption activities. Why should they still be there? Especially in areas like procurement, where you have somebody even going to court to protect himself from being transferred. What business does such a person have in NHIF? So we want to make sure that this NHIF is able to offer services. And as the majority leader quoted the head of state, mambo ni matatu. Mambo ni matatu pia. Kwamba either you go to public service, you can retire voluntarily, or the third one, if you are competent, then we retain you. So that's how we wanted the NHIF to also perform. Hiyo ni mambo ni matatu ya rais. Na lazima tufuate hayo. So, Honorable Speaker, this Social Health Insurance Fund will be presenting its budget to the National Assembly for approval. That budget, once approved, cannot be amended unless through a supplementary paper that will still come again to the House. This is to control abuse, because in the past, NHIF would make a budget proposal, present it to the board, then at the board level, they are able to implement, and that was prone to abuse. Now, it will be up to the National Assembly Committee on Health to approve that budget, and once it's approved, you can only make amendments through a supplementary budget, which is a complete shift from what it was before, where people are just sitting, coming up with proposals. You come up with a proposal costing billions of money. And this is where we are talking about cartels, where Majority Leader says you have cartels who think they can be able to bring amendments to continue doing what you've been doing. You've been warned. That is not going to happen. We're going to ensure that things are done in a proper and transparent manner.
What's your point of order, Honorable Junet?
Madam Speaker, I don't doubt the competence of the chairman of the Health Committee, Honorable Pokose. Madam Speaker, amendments in this House can only be brought by a member of parliament. There's no member of parliament here whose name is a cartel. So if you think the NHIF people want to bring amendment, they have no avenue to do it here. It is only a member, Honorable Pokose, it's only a member of parliament who can, and every member is entitled to bring an amendment to a bill. It is his right, constitutional right. I can see the majority leader is trying to tutor you, but the issue here is every member is entitled to do an amendment as so he wishes. Now the thing is, whether the amendment will be carried or defeated is another issue. The amendment can be carried on the floor or the amendment can be defeated, Honorable Bokose. So don't gag members. You are using very serious, intimidating words that nobody might even attempt to do an amendment to this bill, Honorable Bokose. When have you transformed from a serious medical practitioner to a serious threat and warmonger in this House?
Let me allow Honorable Bokose, then you can give your point of order, Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Junet. And when we are consulting with the majority leader, it is actually sponsor an amendment to create room. What I'm saying is the whole house. I'm not saying this side or that side of the house. I'm saying this house is aware and is alive to any cartel outside there, sponsoring an amendment through any member to continue corrupt practices in NHIF.
Thank you, Honorable Pukos. I think you've made yourself clear. Do you still have a point of order, Leader of Majority? He has answered. Okay, proceed, Honorable Pukos.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and I want to thank Junaid for being alert, and I hope that he will be alert to many of those kinds of amendments that will be sponsored, so that we can make sure that we streamline NHIF to make sure that it's transparent, it is able to offer services to our people, because a person who is sick in Migori and a person who is sick in Endebess deserves good health care services at an affordable, efficient, and quality services within this country. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Social Health Insurance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2023, be read a second time. The Honorable Member for Nyeri Town, Honorable Maina Mathenge.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this bill. I'm a member of the Health Committee, Honorable Speaker. And today, it is one of my greatest days as an elected member of Parliament. Because before this House, I had proposed amendments to the existing NHIF Act to better cushion Kenyans against the very costly out-of-pocket expenditures that have led very many families to financial catastrophe and ruin. Honorable Speaker, this bill helps us as a House realize the constitutional right to Kenyans to health. It helps us move a step closer towards the realization of the Abuja Declaration 2001 on health financing, and it also helps us move closer towards the realization of SDG 3 on health. And therefore, this is not just a phenomenal moment for this House. It is a momentous occasion for every Kenyan and for every member of Parliament who really cares about the welfare of the people who elected us. Honorable Speaker, this bill guarantees every Kenyan at every level to be able to access health services without having to worry about whether they can afford it or not. It allows every Kenyan, whether they are earning a living or not, whether they are in prison or not, whether they are Kenyans living in this country who are not ordinarily Kenyans, but when they are in our space, they can access medical care. Honorable Speaker, this bill puts into perspective the dream of every Kenyan child in terms of infant and child mortality. Honorable Speaker, this bill assures the survival of every mother and child in terms of maternal and infant mortality. Honorable Speaker, this bill assures the right of every Kenyan to sexual and reproductive health. Honorable Speaker, this bill assures every Kenyan's access to medical treatment should they be involved in an accident, be it a road accident or any other form of accident. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I am urging all Kenyans, wherever they are, to ensure that on the day that we are meeting here as a committee of every House, that Kenyans from all corners of the country call upon their members of Parliament to stand with them in the area of health services provision. Kenyans must also be vigilant because we are aware, as it has been claimed here, that we have amendments that have been being sponsored by people who have always exploited Kenyans and benefited from the unfortunate incidents of being sick in our country. And I pray that on the day we have the committee of the whole House, that every member of parliament will forget about the possibility of making an extra buck by accepting to bring an amendment that is not in the interest of the ordinary Kenyan citizen. This bill, Honorable Speaker, in my view, will be a measure of our patriotism as registrators. This bill, Honorable Speaker, also assists the Kenya Kwanza government deliver on its manifesto on the promise of UHC. On the promise of UHC, this promise was cross-cutting both to the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio during the campaigns. And therefore, this is one reason, this is one instance where all of us as registrators must close our lungs and forget whatever political persuasion we come from and start with the ordinary Kenyans. Madam Speaker, lastly, healthcare in this country today, for those who are of low means, has been sustained through fundraisers. Every member of parliament in a week has to attend between 5 and 10 fundraisers, including people who happen to know you because they have seen you on TV and they know that you are a legislator. They are seeking out for help. Kenyans have been crying. I hope it is time that as legislators, we accept to hear, heed, and sort out the cry of Kenyans on the area of healthcare. Madam Speaker, I thank you and I support.
The Honorable Deputy Leader of Majority, Honorable Owen Baya.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, first I want to thank the committee for a good job and also wanted to thank the Kenya Kwanza government for implementing its manifesto under the bottom-up transformation economic agenda. Honorable Speaker, healthcare in this country has been one of the greatest headaches. That families go bankrupt, families sell all their assets because someone is sick. Honorable Speaker, we have had an animal called NHIF for a long time. We have put in lots of our money in that. Kenyans have put in lots of their money because they trust that this NHIF would help them sort out their medical bills, that they will not have to sell their assets, that their parents, their kids will not be detained in hospitals. But NHIF has let this country down. It is time now we reform the NHIF to ensure that we have universal health care that will take care of the people that require this facility. Honorable Speaker, you and I will have a medical scheme, and many other organizations and people who work in these big organizations will have medical schemes that will take care of them. But the majority of Kenyans do not qualify under that category that they would be able to have an insurance for their medical needs. But majority of them look at government and say, what is it that government can do for my health? This government of Kenya Kwanza has said, yes, we have something that we can do for you. We can reform NHIF, ensure it is more efficient, ensure it takes care of diseases like cancer, diseases that are chronic, diseases that at the end of the day when somebody gets this disease, a family goes bankrupt. And we have said we have an opportunity now to reform NHIF and ensure that we have an organization. The Social Health Insurance Bill 2023 is the panacea, the thing that will sort out this issue of medical bills. Honorable Speaker, I take cognizance of some of the most interesting things that are coming out. One, as we pass the digital health bill, it is linked to this social health insurance bill. That apart from the fact that we will treat patients, patients are able to import and export data to other facilities such that those facilities have an opportunity to treat our patients without having them to travel. That we shall have an opportunity to use the much talked about telemedicine that many people say, you know, you can use telemedicine in this country and treat people. But it has not happened because we do not have the requisite law. Now we are putting the requisite law to ensure that telemedicine becomes a reality, that sharing of information becomes a reality. But Honorable Speaker, It is also important to note that health insurance coverage in this country is very low. At least you know that when it is low, then its effectiveness and efficiency is in doubt. But with this new scheme that we will roll, that this government will roll when we pass this bill, we will ensure that we have more and more people that can join. And when you have an organization that is efficient and effective, Kenyans will have confidence such that when they're asked to pay money for a service, they will actually pay. When they will be told that there'll be a tax on this matter, they will pay. The problem that we have, Honorable Speaker, is accountability on tax. What I believe in, a justice system, a tax system that is just is a tax system that is accountable. That when you receive the money, you are accountable to the citizens for ensuring that you provide services. As we reform NHIF, Honorable Speaker, it is also important to speak to the county governments who actually are the providers of this service. What are they doing to ensure that we have well-stocked hospitals? What are they doing to ensure there are doctors who will ensure that we have an accountable system? NHIF pays for what is provided, what the patient requires. Honorable Speaker, the principal object of this bill is to put in place a legislative framework to regulate the provision of social health insurance, promote an implementation of the universal health coverage, and ensure that all Kenyans have access to affordable and comprehensive quality health services. Quality health services is one of the objects of this bill. As we do all these things, Honorable Speaker, one of the most important things is to end corruption in hospitals so that our citizens can get quality health services. That when money goes into this organization, we know, and it led to the dismissal of the MD there who has been there, that corruption has beriddled NHIF for many years. How do we ensure we reform it? We cannot just pass a law here and say we have reformed the NHIF. We need to go into that organization, dismantle what it is, and reassemble, and assemble a new organization, an organization that will take care of the of the health care for Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, I take cognizance that, and I want to inform the House that there's been a lot of lobbying from workers in HIF, that they have a problem with Section 2, the last sections, where the transition provisions on workers. They have even lobbied me and said, we want to be automatically absorbed. But this brings into question, how do you reform an organization when you're going to just take everything, put everything that was in the other side, change the name, and say you have reformed? Human resource that have been in HIF need to rethink, have they been providing quality services for Kenyans? Have they been truthful to the call to ensure that Kenyans have a universal health system care that really works? And I think this is the time when we need to separate the chaff from the maize and say those that have been bad eggs within NHIF cannot join the new organization. That I support. But what I want also to see is fairness in ensuring that Kenyans that have done well are ensured continue to do well. Those that have not done very well, Honorable Speaker, should pave way for others so that we have an organization that will ensure universal health care. Honorable Speaker, two things matter to me. One, if we can provide good health, good education for our children, the second thing that we must provide as a country is good health care. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation, and we are able to ensure that this country moves forward. Other developed countries, Honorable Speaker, if you go to the United States, healthcare becomes one of the key agendas during an election, healthcare. And every president will give his own idea of how to ensure that he has provided good healthcare for the Kenya Kwanza. Use the plank of good healthcare system to ensure that we win the vote. My friends, the people that Honorable Junet described as a certain animal some time ago, never gave really a good and a credible proposal on healthcare. Kenya Kwanza did. This is the time that we need to ensure we implement what we campaigned on, and one of them is this one. And this we will do within our time. And also to add on what the leader said, not just our time, but this session of Parliament, we must bring these refreshing ideas, these revolutionary idea in the healthcare system of this country. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. And honorable members, I know we haven't asked for reduction of time on this debate, but I'm just asking you humbly that if we, because there's a lot of interest, if we can speak briefly, each of us, if you agree, so that other members can be able to participate. The Honorable Junet Mohammed.
Madam Speaker, thank you for according me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, you see, they say when the only tool you have is a hammer, you think the only problem that exists is a nail. Madam Speaker, the problem in this country, and it has been so not in this regime, even in previous regimes since independence, is every problem that confronts the country, we think it requires legislation. Keep on legislating, which is good for us as parliamentarians because it keeps us busy and we do our work. But does legislation really address the issues that we are facing as this country, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, if you look at the issues Kenyans are facing today, are major issues of administrative in nature. Madam Speaker, Kenyans are suffering. Healthcare is a problem, and it has been so for many years. And people are going out of the country to seek healthcare, either in India or other countries. But Madam Speaker, what is the elephant in the room in the healthcare service, especially in relation to the existing institutions like NHIF? The elephant in the room is corruption. If that is sorted out, you will see every Kenyan will get quality service in the healthcare by the healthcare providers, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am not opposed to this bill at all. I'm willing to, but we must bring out and we must share as a house issues that are of concern to us in terms of what we are doing. For example, Madam Speaker, we are now saying that we want to transform the NHIF into a social health insurance. That's a good and noble act, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, until we fight corruption head-on in the health sector, we will not get any value for the public money. Look at NHIF, look at MES, the medical equipment services that was done in the last regime for the counties, Madam Speaker. Those equipment have become obsolete. In fact, some of the counties, if you go today, they will not tell you whether they benefited from those equipment. They were just vendor-driven. And the majority leader can bear me witness here, whether MES, the medical equipment system, has worked. It has not worked completely. So the main problem here in this bill, the first clause should be corruption is punishable by death in the health sector. If there was a clause like that, then you'll see healthcare providers doing the right thing. Madam Speaker, if you look at NHIF, the model was borrowed from NHS, the National Health Service of UK. When you go there, they still have teething problems. They still have problems with their system, but corruption is not one of them. The quality of healthcare that a poor person gets is the same quality a rich man gets in the UK because of NHS. And the NHIF was supposed to be modeled with the NHS. It's supposed to work according to the way NHIF works, NHS works. Madam Speaker, until we bite the bullet and we deal with the cartels and the corruption in the health sector, I don't think, even if we bring 10 or 15 acts of parliament, nothing will change. I can promise you. So, my question is, for example, in the bill now, there are very good things that have been proposed, like the critical illness fund. That is very important. Many Kenyans are suffering. There are people who have cancer. There are people who have diabetic, and they are not getting the right attention from the healthcare providers. That is going to help. But in my view, let us not also condemn the whole institution of NHIF as it is today. It has also done some good work. So let us sieve the chaff from the wheat. In this bill, I expected a transition clause that says that the people who are working on NHIF are deemed to have, when the new institution is created, they are no longer in service, but they should be given priority in accordance with their qualification and competence. Instead of employing people from outside, 6,000 people, 10,000 people, where are you taking these 10,000 people? They're also Kenyans. Some of them are competent people, they are diligent people, they have worked very well, they have served the institution, they have served the country. We should have a transition clause that says priority will be given to those people who are working at NHIF, who have good track record, people who have done good job, and people who have, dignity, they have no corruption cases. Everyone's file is there. The file can be perused. The other thing I don't agree with this bill, Madam Speaker, is it is proposing that the new institution will outsource claim management to 5 or so private companies. Then what's the work of this institution? If they cannot process claim, because NHIF, their biggest predicament, their biggest problem in the form of corruption was claim processing. Because hospitals were getting money that they don't deserve. Now you want to outsource to CIC, to Britam, to these insurance companies. So what is the work of the board? What is the work of the NHIF? Not NHIF. What is the work of this new institution we are creating? Then why can't you let the NHIF do it? So those ambiguities must be addressed in this bill, Madam Speaker. If we are to achieve, nobody on the floor of this House can oppose any proposal to make the healthcare of the Kenyans better. All of us have duty, we are bound to support it, Madam Speaker, because you don't know when you'll become sick. You might be feeling well today, you might be the next victim. Only God knows how long will you be healthy. So we are duty bound to support any proposal that is ready to make Ishungwa stop sending other members. If you have issues, just stand up and face me. Please, I'm here, but face me.
Honorable Junet, you address people through the speaker. Your point of order, Honorable Muge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am listening to the Honorable Junet, and it seems like, Madam Speaker, he has not read the committee report, because there's a bill, and there's the process that the bill has gone through in the committee, and the committee has made amendments on most of the issues that he's touching on, and the amendments are well stipulated in the report, Honorable Speaker. I want to encourage the Honorable Member to go through the report, and it's not only the Honorable Majority Leader here who has the monopoly of knowledge in raising points of order and whatnot. Every member has the capacity, and we should all be encouraged to read, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, there are so many points of orders. Your point of order, Professor Undo? And
point of order, Honorable Speaker. What is being debated here is this bill. It's not the committee report. Being these new members, we need to take time to educate them on the process. It is the bill, not the committee report. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I think, honorable members, you stand guided. It's the bill that's being debated. Leader of Majority, what's your point of order? And I think there was a point of order. Okay, let's get to Leader of Majority first. No, you already completed your time.
Honorable Speaker, it's actually the Honorable Junet who invited me by saying that I am tutoring the Honorable Cynthia Muge. And while I have no problem tutoring Honorable Cynthia, because she's a very diligent legislator, but she was mentioning exactly what she has said, that it is true we are debating this bill, but we are debating this bill after a committee of this House has considered the bill and tabled a report that informs part of the issues that the committee seeks to bring to amendment. And therefore, when you are speaking to a bill, it's always good to refer to the committee report, because they have taken almost 2 weeks looking at the bill, proposed amendments. Therefore, we may also be speaking to things that will no longer be part of the bill, Honorable Speaker. And what I took issue with, Honorable Speaker, is the Honorable Junet actually belittling the Honorable Cynthia Muge, that she has to be tutored, knowing that she's a very diligent member from Bomet County, and from Nandi County, Honorable Speaker, where my ancestors hail from, Honorable Speaker. And the Honorable Junet must indeed apologize to the Honorable Cynthia Muge, because she's a very diligent legislator. And you must agree, Junet.
with a lot of experience right from the county assembly, where she excelled and was distinguished. Honorable Makalimulu. Get to you, Honorable Jeanette. Yes.
It's working. Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what I wanted to say is something I've said in this House many times, and it relates to what Honorable Ichung'wa said. This House started business at 2:30 this afternoon. And this report we are discussing, we are expected to have read, was tabled, this report and the other one on Dingito, after 2:30. So if we want to be fair to the members, so that they don't debate the bill as it is, let's also allow members time to read this report on the vote chair. Otherwise, we'll have a report of a committee which has sat for 2 weeks. Honorable Ichung'wa, why have you changed after sitting on that seat? We've known you for so long that we have always been a very sober guy. Anyway, let me stop there, he's my friend.
Honorable Jeanette, I think you have like a minute left.
Madam Speaker, I want to confirm that Honorable Ichung'wa is sober. I know he doesn't drink, that I know. So, Madam Speaker, you see, let me first say that the proposal in the committee's report is not final. It's a proposal. I can agree with you and I can disagree with the committee. You are just proposing an amendment to certain sections of the, maybe as a committee, and I can oppose your proposal. So it doesn't mean that the report of the committee is final.
Please proceed.
It doesn't bind me. So, Madam Speaker,
Don't respond.
that's the situation in this parliament. I don't know how the county assembly was, but this one, I can disagree with the report of the committee. Anyway, I apologize for saying that Mheshimiwa Ichung'wa was misleading you. So now, anyway, Madam Speaker, if in conclusion, and I'm happy the chairman of the committee has come back, if we are to carry this bill as it is, we must address those issues of concern to the people and to the House. The elephant in the room, I said, is corruption. Let's come up with a way to deal with it in the health sector. Now, how do you want to outsource claim management, Chairman? How? What is the work of that institution? With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, we are going to bring amendments to address those issues, and we will make sure that those amendments are carried because they are good for the country. But I support the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And honorable members, just in the interest of allowing other members to be able to speak, let's keep our to very few minutes, as short as possible, and try not to repeat yourself. I think we'll have an honorable member for Mathare, Anthony Alwatch, followed by Honorable David Ochieng.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And let me begin from a point that Honorable Ichung'wa mentioned when he was moving, and I agree with him entirely on this one. I think he said that in our country, if you have the misfortune of being committed in any of our institutions, our cells or our prisons, then you're a candidate of a person who has been condemned to death. I say this again as the context of Article 43(2)(a) of the Constitution, which clearly states that every person is entitled to emergency health care and shall not be denied emergency assistance. When you look at Article 28 and 29 of the Constitution, they buttress this point by saying that every person has an inherent dignity and the right to that dignity respected and protected. And Article 29, this goes on to conclude by saying every person has a right not to be treated to cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. Honorable Speaker and members, any person who is predisposed to certain conditions, either high blood pressure, a diabetic, an asthmatic person, is such person who is predisposed to emergency care and must be treated to such. So even as we put in place this bill, I would support very strongly if there are provisions that extends this emergency treatment and social insurance to persons who are in our prisons and in our cells because they are entitled to their rights, notwithstanding the limitations of their confinement. And I say this from the benefit of experience, Honorable Speaker. When I was recently arrested for reasons I will not say here, it was a public arrest held incommunicado for 19 hours. Honorable Speaker, you will be horrified that if a member of parliament, in spite of asking for emergency medical treatment for 19 hours, would be denied such treatment, then you ask yourself what would happen to ordinary citizens. So if this bill is going to address that question, that emergency medical treatment, and especially in light of this new regime of health insurance that is being proposed, would be extended to persons notwithstanding their confinement, then it is a good thing. Honorable Speaker, one of the things that I noticed is that we just debated and concluded the digital health bill. We are now debating the social insurance bill, but both bills seems not to remember that primary health, there is a category of person or medical practitioners called the traditional health practitioners. And I hope that the chair would be listening to this. These are the first port of call to many, many Kenyans at the local level. The first port of call before they can get access to dispensaries, to level 1, to level 2, or what level of treatment. So when you're talking about addressing in a new dispensation, digitizing, how do you do that without bringing into the bracket traditional health practitioners? So that if we are going to comprehensively deal with the question of universal comprehensive health, we cannot do it outside the context of traditional health as well. I am saying this also against the context of the question of research, because we have extended the issues of research as part of what we want to do in terms of universal health. When you're talking about research, we have lost a lot of innovation in traditional health, and I'll just mention one example. Professor Arthur Obel, when he made an invention that would have sorted the issue of HIV and AIDS. This was dismissed because traditional health has been taken to be equal to Uganga. And that is not true. Traditional health is alternative health. And we must bring this equation into the problem of solving the universal health against the context of this new bill. Honorable Speaker, as we discuss this, we must also remember that health is a devolved function. So that even as we put this new institution in place, and the authority, and the exchequer and resources that will follow it, we must remember that this regime has promised that it will devolve all the functions that are revolved. And devolving all the functions include devolving all the resources that go with it. So that the national government should only remain with the question of policy and enabling environment to ensure that we have social, universal health care. Honorable Speaker, we have a regime or a situation in which we throw taxation at every problem. I am very sure that with this new authority or board that is being created, Kenyans must brace themselves for taxes, taxes, and more taxes. But even as we put in more taxes in order to ensure that there is social comprehensive health for every Kenyan, we must remember the question of equity and equalization, which is entrenched in our foundational principles under Article 10 of the Constitution, so that we do not have all Kenyans contributing towards tax, but when it comes to the benefits of taxation and realizing the benefits of the infrastructure that comes with it, it is only certain parts of this country that benefit. Let the social welfare insurance be something that can benefit somebody from Turkana as it benefits the same somebody who is from Madare and somebody who is from Diwa. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to conclude by agreeing that the issues of governance, there is an attempt to address them in this bill. But if the attempt is merely to replace certain level of cartels so that we create other monopolies and other duopolies, then that fight against corruption will be a zero-sum game and will not amount to anything. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support this bill with reservations. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Ugenya.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. This bill, the main intention of this bill is to repeal the act that establishes NHIF and create a new system of governing and managing the provision of social health in the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to start by saying that I support this bill in its current form with amendment that will provide going forward. But, Madam Speaker, I wanted to ask the chair of the committee. This bill, I believe, Madam Speaker, should have started at clause 4 by providing, Madam Speaker, protect me because I can't hear myself. If you may, please.
Please lower the consultations. Lower the consultations, honorable members.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I would have imagined that if you wanted a more serious surgery on this sector, the first clause after 3 would have been a declaration that no public servant will seek medical services from the private sector. Number 2, I would have wanted a provision that says that this parliament shall not approve any budget for any institution, judiciary, executive, or parliament that would take private insurance. Then you would tell Kenyans you're providing social help. But if you still leave us parliamentarians to have our own medical scheme, judiciary's own medical scheme, everyone else with their own medical scheme, then we are still throwing most of the Kenyans under the bus. I would imagine that if we want to do a thorough job, let's carry all Kenyans in this basket. Then you'll be shown seriousness in sorting out this issue, Madam Speaker. Number 2 is this bill in its current form, Madam Speaker. I agree with what they provide for. But unless there's also provision, concerted effort to ensure that facilities from the dispensary, health centers to level 3 and level 4 are provided with basic standardized equipment, personnel, then you'll be going towards getting what you're looking for called social health. But merely naming it, merely chunking the funds into one you are calling now, primary, another one you are now calling emergency, another one you are calling chronic. Madam Speaker, we'll need to make amendment to this bill to ensure that the bill deals with 3 very important issues. 1, quality of medical services, so that people can get service wherever they are. Where I come from in Ugenya, people travel 40, 50 kilometers to do X-ray. Dispensaries, 30 of them in my county, out of maybe 40, only 3, 4 have laboratories. A microscope. Potassium malaria is not there. So you can talk about money, talk about how you're going to fund it, but if our institutions are not to a level where they can provide quality services, it's kaput. Won't go anywhere. Madam Speaker, the cost of provision of medical services in this country is terrible. Today you'll go to Kenyatta Hospital, do an X-ray. You go to another doctor tomorrow with the same X-ray, you're told, Apana, you have to do another X-ray on the same issue. Today you are told to go and do an MRI at another hospital. If you go to Kenyatta University Hospital, you are told do another X-ray or another MRI of the same issue. We will not sort out the corruption in this sector if we don't get our hands into those kind of malpractices, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's now almost a cliche that every public hospital has a pharmacy along the road run by either the head of that public service or a doctor in that public service hospital or something around there. And that's why every time most public hospitals have no medicines, have no drugs. Madam Speaker, I agree with what's being proposed here. But unless we go to the crux of the matter, adequacy, we have dispensaries and clinical health centers that saw their last doctor 4 months ago. The doctor comes once in a week. The hospital is run by a nurse. I don't see them being handled here. Madam Speaker, the governance of NHIF, the management of NHIF, if we don't deal with it again the right way, it will be just same monkeys, different forests. I hope our government, the Kenya government, will not end up with the same thing you've seen before, where you reorganize a system to bring your people in. Let's not do that. Let's make honest, genuine, effective changes to our social health system so that we as a people can be proud of what we are doing. And that's why I agree with Honorable Junet and all those who have said that if you are creating an authority to manage our funds, why do you want to outsource it? Why do you say in law specifically that you will give some medical private providers work? We are not getting work for private sector. And that's why I thought that if we are borrowing from NHS of the UK, Madam Speaker, by the way, NHS is managed completely and entirely by government. There is no intermediaries. Madam Speaker, I thought I would see provisions. We just, passed the second reading of the digital health bill. 40% today of the monies we pay for health provision go into records management, managing our health records, sharing health records, Madam Speaker. And I thought that with the kind of changes we are making, the cost of provision of services could go down to ensure that we are doing the right thing. Madam Speaker, I was very happy yesterday when I saw the President launching the health promotions framework. Madam Speaker, this is the way to go. That most ailments, most of our monies don't go into treating things that ailments that would have been prevented much, much earlier. And so, and to request members of Parliament here today, the Ministry of Health, the county governments in the country, invest more in prevention, invest more in promotion. It is the way to go. Let's not, Madam Speaker, people die in our villages, very simple ailments, things that could be dealt with through just civic education on, say, lifestyle, on, say, how to deal with small things. Nowadays, basic things. People have got up from Madam Speaker. I've been looking at the issue of transitioning NHIF. Madam Speaker, we cannot declare the workers there guilty. No one has charged them. No one has put them under any microscope and said you are not fit enough. Madam Speaker, but you can't put their fate before a board, which is coming new tomorrow, that has instructions that you're going in there to clean it. Clean what? No one has been adjudged to be corrupt or bankrupt or malfeasance. So we must give them a fair hearing. Even before we ask them to go, must give them a fair hearing. Madam Speaker, in this current system, I believe that we must also start reducing the wage bill by reducing the size of the boards we set up. This board, if you look at it, has 11 members. 11. Why do you need 11? You just need 4. If you need quorum 5, why do you need to disaggregate and start apportioning? You apportion and say, Kotu will be in the board, KMA will be in the board. Why do you have those ones in the board? Then I'll also want Parliament to be in that board. I'll want LSK to be in that board. Why don't we have lean boards in the bodies we're going to get in going forward that can do their work? When you have bigger boards, politics gets in, your remonitoring gets in, Madam Speaker, and you're not able to move. I would wish to request the majority leader, if you can have only 5 members of the board, because if you already have the PS Health in the board, why do you need the DG? Why do you need the AG in this board? AG is always providing legal services to all government institutions. Why do you need the AG? Why DG when you already have PS Health? So if we could make provisions to reduce the size of the board, Madam Speaker, I'll be very happy. Madam Speaker, finally, Madam Speaker, I want to request, should this bill go through, the minister concerned, because we have given the minister so many powers. Almost at the end of every clause, we are talking about the CS will do this. At the end of every clause, the CS cannot tell us what benefits we'll get in an insurance scheme that we are paying for. This Parliament should set up those benefits that we're going to get. Kenyans should know early enough that if you are paying, this is what you get. We cannot leave regulations that have very far-reaching implications to the CS. And so going forward, we're going to make proposals, Madam Speaker, that should make this bill all-encompassing with serious surgical provisions that would make health care as good as it could be. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Deputy Majority Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this very important bill, National Assembly Bill 2023, bill to introduce the Social Health Insurance Bill 2023. Madam Speaker, I have been looking forward to this minute because I know how important this bill is, and putting into consideration the challenges that Kenyans have been going through in terms of health, health facilities and funds that are managed under NHIF, that has made many Kenyans to suffer in different ways because of lack of accountability and many other things that have been going on. Madam Speaker, looking at this bill, I feel that through this bill, we will be able to transform the health sector, and we will be able to promote implementation of universal health in every part of this country. And again, we will make sure, or we will ensure that all Kenyans receive equal opportunities in terms of service delivery and also helping our people. I was going through the bill, and I want to appreciate the work of the Health Committee and what they have done so that we come up with this. Madam Speaker, the bill clearly shows what it will do and how it will serve Kenyans. And looking at the first part 2 of this, it establishes the establishment of the Social Health Authority. This authority is the authority that will help in doing everything, and the authority shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession and common seal, and shall in its cooperation be able to do different things. Madam Speaker, as I said, if we put into consideration all this, then we will be able to transform our country. And under that, under the authority, one of the things that has really helped me to accept this is that it will manage, control, and administer the assets of the authority in such a manner and for such purposes as best promotes the objects for which the authority is established. In the past, as I said, in Kenya, we have a lot of policies, but unfortunately, we don't follow the policies. Sometimes we have so many even laws and regulations in place, but why we suffer as a country is because we do not follow. And that is why, up to today, as a country, we have a big problem. But if we do this, then there is a hope for our country today. Again, under that, under the authority, then we can also see that it is able to invest the funds not immediately required for its purposes in the manner provided in this act under section 38. In the past, Madam Speaker, people have saved a lot, even under NSSF and social welfare and all these other things, but accounting for that money again has been a problem. If we put proper measures in place so that for sure these monies are saved somewhere, are fixed somewhere, and it benefits all the members, then as a country we will have achieved a lot. But if the history will be the same, if the story will be the same, that Kenyans pay, Kenyans invest, Kenyans do different things, but the money is mismanaged, and sometimes they cannot even get any trace for the money, then we will not be able to achieve our goals. And I believe under Kenya Kwanza government, we will be able to achieve this because we have committed members, and together with that, we should have qualified staff in place, qualified personnel, whereby people will be put in their relevant fields, and we will be able to control everything. Again, part 3, the bill provides that primary health care fund. The primary health care fund is, there is establishment of a fund to be known as the primary health care fund, whose objects shall be to purchase primary health care services from health facilities. Madam Speaker, today if you go to our hospitals or dispensaries, our people cannot get anything in their hospitals. They are even referred to private hospitals or pharmacies to go and buy Panadols or any other thing. And if all the dispensaries, all the facilities in every part of this country, because sometimes we concentrate on the big town, big cities, and where we have financial muscles. If we can make sure that the services that we provide will go to every part of this country, and the healthcare fund will also be found or be sent to every part of this country, then we will be able to touch the life of everybody, and at even the grassroots level, so that this bill will not only be passed in National Assembly or mentioned that it has to be effected and the President has endorsed, but it will transform people's life. Again, Madam Speaker, the bill in part 4 has what they call the Emergency Chronic and Critical Illnesses Fund. In the past, we know, and currently, many Kenyans have been traveling to different parts of this world, especially India. The traffic is so huge, and as other members have also said, most of the time what we do is to collect funds, to fundraise, even on WhatsApp groups, and even through fundraising in the villages. That has really exhausted all of us, and sometimes you feel embarrassed because you have your neighbor who is sick, you have your family member who is sick and who needs the medical attention, and you cannot be able to assist. And sometimes members are even forced, or opinion leaders are forced to keep borrowing money so that at least they can be relevant socially in their villages. Madam Speaker, this Emergency Chronic and Critical Illnesses Fund will help every part of this country, and also the Kenyans who are suffering from chronic illnesses. Many people today, because of the frustrations and the problems that they have blood pressure, others have diabetes, and many people have been diagnosed at their old age or even as young as they are, with cancer and other illnesses that need a lot of money to be treated. And providing this will be a big relief to everybody in this country, and especially to the caregivers, and also to the people who are already affected by the different illnesses. Madam Speaker, I support this bill, and it is my prayer that soon it will be implemented. As I finish, I want to just touch on part 8 of this bill, where they have talked about dispute resolution committee. And if a person is aggrieved by a decision made under this act, may within 1 month from the date of the decision appeal to the dispute resolution committee for review of such decision. This then means that even those people who have dispute or who have been aggrieved will have a chance to bring forth their complaints and to be catered for by this committee. And that then assures us that things will be different. Madam Speaker, as I finish, I just want to say that even those who are already working, it is good for us to make sure that Kenya is already suffering, and we should not add into that. Economically, people are suffering. We should retain all the qualified staff who are working in this area and make sure that those who need to be promoted will also be promoted. Thank you, and I support.
Thank you. The Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to lend my voice to this extremely important transformational bill. Honorable Speaker, I think today is an important day in the history of Kenya. It is 13 years since we promulgated the 2010 Constitution, which provided under Article 43 that every person has a right to the highest attainable standard of health care, which includes the right to health care and healthcare services, including reproductive health care. Honorable Speaker, this will be a publicly funded social insurance fund that has been established. The difference with this is that it will cover not only those who are employed or on a payroll, as was designed under the now soon to be repealed National Hospital Insurance Fund. In that case, what happened is the only people who could access the highest attainable possible health care was those who actually were in formal employment. And we know that only 4.7 million Kenyans are in formal employment. 16 million are in informal employment. Because it's publicly funded, it will give us the opportunity also to save ourselves from the predatory nature of private insurance. Private insurance today will do anything not to pay an invoice that has been provided. They will do anything to claim that you had a pre-existing condition. And I've had that personal experience where an insurance company said the patient that taken to the hospital had a pre-existing condition, even though it was being diagnosed for the very first time during that particular hospital. And they got away with it. Also, from my own personal experience, private insurance companies are rejected by most of the top hospitals and doctors in this country. Because most doctors will tell you, I will fill 1,000 papers, I will spend my time filling out forms and creating paperwork, sending it to the insurance company, the private insurance company, and that private insurance company will later take 3 months to pay the doctors. So anybody can testify to you that very recently, I was at a hospital on Parklands Road. And when I took my patient there, they said, we accept NHIF, but we do not accept the private insurance. They refused to accept Jubilee, even though the person had a comprehensive cover. And they said they take too long to pay us. Yet, the private insurance companies demand upfront payment of premiums. So they receive the money in advance, but they will delay as much as possible to pay others. So we hope, and it is our hope as Kenyans, that a publicly funded and financed health insurance will be able to save us from that. And seeing that the current structure as set out in this bill, this authority has taken many learnings from the failures of the National Hospital Insurance Fund. We know that for a long time, many private hospitals benefited more than public hospitals from the National Hospital Insurance Fund. We know hospitals that were ranked the last few years as being the highest single beneficiary of NHIF payments, yet they didn't have the highest number of patients. It's mind-boggling that private hospitals that are only operating in 2 towns in Kenya were receiving NHIF payments ahead of Kenyatta National Hospital, ahead of Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. And so we hope that with this new management and design, that those processes will be a thing of the past. Also, I know that it has been raised by Honorable Junet that legislation is not everything. But I must say this to Honorable Junet, that in order to realize Article 43 of our Constitution, the only way that you can implement that article is by legislating, because implementation is done through legislation. You cannot begin to implement a social health insurance fund without having legislation. I know he talked about the fact that NHS, but you can't compare NHS with what we had as NHIF, because NHS covered every single person, whether you are employed or not. Yet, NHIF only covered those people who are employed. We hope that with the National Insurance, National Health Insurance Authority, that it will cover, and that is what has been set out in this bill, it will cover everyone regardless of whether you're in formal employment or not. Many members have raised the issue, and I think Honorable Ochieng raised the issue and said it's about time that the public service, instead of paying for private insurance, should actually take out and pass that money to this public insurance, so that we can pool resources to cover those who are unable. But I was happy that when I spoke to the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Health, Honorable Pukose, and I asked him about that, he explained to me that previously under NHIF, it had been introduced that there would be enhanced covers that people can pay for, that would cover us as well as the private insurance would cover us. But at some point it was abused. But under this new bill, there is a different methodology where institutions can approach the insurance fund and authority
Justice,
and the board.
Order, Deputy Speaker. Yes. Honorable Justice, what is out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would not have wanted to interrupt when the Deputy Speaker is speaking, but having listened carefully to the bill, even me, Madam Speaker, I would have wanted to raise issues on primary health. I would have wanted to raise issues on corruption.
If you're moving a motion, move understanding. Okay. Which time?
Understanding order number 95, Madam Speaker, would I be in order to ask that the majority leader be called upon to...
Honorable Member,
yeah.
you see the mover of the bill is not even in the House. We'll continue. The Deputy Speaker, continue.
Okay, thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. This is a very important bill. I think every single member of Parliament who's here would like to lend their voice to this bill. Reason being, all of them have been fundraising for health care for their constituents every single day during their tenure, and continue to do so. And this weekend, they shall continue to do so. And I said, I was going on to say that